Chapter 264. This stupid wheel was actually as hard as a rock. After passing the test, Chen Guang pounced on the side of the wheel and touched it. It was cold to the touch, and he knocked it with his finger. It was indeed a pure rock. This is a sculpture. What's the point of having such a huge sculpture? Chen Guang didn't understand. Take a closer look. Look around, look at the sea of clouds. Use your heart to feel the changes in your surroundings. Liu Li reminded him again. Only then did Chen Guang become serious. He collected his thoughts and looked around, and indeed found something strange. Countless faintly discernible silk threads floated over from the endless void in the distance. They were as soft as flying cotton, like the countless tentacles of a transparent jellyfish. One end was connected to the car sculpture, and the other end extended into the endless void. On the ground, Chen Guang originally thought that it was just white fog. Only when he bent down to take a closer look did he realize that what was continuously extending up from the ground were also silk threads. If he didn't squint his eyes and look carefully, he wouldn't be able to tell at all. But once he realized the existence of these things, Chen Guang only felt goosebumps all over his body. He thought of the stinky tofu covered in white mold that had just been distributed at home. Resisting the discomfort, he reached out to fiddle with the densely packed white silk threads. His fingers brushed past them without any hindrance, as if he hadn't touched anything. When he blew out a breath, these silk threads were like silk floating in the air, swaying along with the airflow. His fingers couldn't touch them, so they were illusory? If he could move them by blowing, then they weren't completely illusory? And they definitely weren't mist. What the hell was this thing? Alright, I'll tell you a great piece of good news. You've finally fulfilled the hidden condition of the heavenly Holy Grail. When Chen Guang was almost dizzy from all this, Liu Li was finally willing to turn on the commentator mode. What hidden condition? Just from the sound of it, it sounded really powerful. What does it have to do with this stupid sculpture? Chen Guang decisively turned on the 100,000 wise mode. In the field of racing, you become known as the strongest person on this earth. And then? Then the third world within a cup that you experienced, the racing god training ground, would be considered complete. This huge statue is the symbol of the racing god training ground. At the same time, it has other important uses. Can you say it all at once? From now on, everyone in this world who loves racing will worship you as a god. These people's faith in you, even if they're separated by oceans, will condense invisibly to you. In order to make it easier for you to understand, let's temporarily call it the power of faith. The Holy Grail can absorb the power of faith attached to your body and use it to recover my divine power, as well as speed up the operation of the Holy Grail itself. This means that the world in the cup will come faster in the future. The frequency was even higher. The speed of the heavenly Holy Grail's cultivation would also be faster. The statue you are looking at right now is the statue of the god of racing training ground. These seemingly real and illusory white threads are the power of faith that is materialized in the world in the cup. Chen Guang had a blank look on his face. It sounds awesome, but it's not scientific. There are only a few 100,000 people watching today's racing competition. Perhaps there are people watching the live broadcast from other places, but I estimate that there are at most 1 million people. If, according to what you said, everyone's so-called power of faith represents a thread, then there are at most a few million of them. Even if I can't count them clearly, just by guessing, I think the number of threads here is definitely more than 100 million. Liu Li chuckled and said proudly, "This is the true power of the heavenly Holy Grail. Just as you said and saw, there are indeed billions of threads of power of faith here. That's about 98% of the total population on Earth. Why are there so many? On your Earth, as long as someone knows about driving, they will produce power of faith. All of them will be absorbed by the heavenly Holy Grail. Perhaps these people didn't witness the process of you becoming the racing god with their own eyes. Even if their power of faith is weaker, or a lot weaker, it still exists." Chen Guang expressed his surprise. "There's no reason for that. They don't even know me, so why would they worship me? And they can continue to supply power of faith to me? Lu Li chuckled again. What do you know? You're now recognized as the world's strongest racer, no one can deny that. Whether it's the professional racers or the underground racers you've just defeated, no one dares to challenge you anymore. There's no doubt about your strength. Even if they don't know what happened today, even if they don't know you at all, in their hearts, at some point in time, they must have inadvertently imagined who is the world's fastest driver. They will fantasize in their minds about how amazing that person is and so on. As long as humans occasionally think about who can drive faster in their lives, because of the latent pursuit of speed, they will worship the person who drives faster or is the fastest. Even if this worship will eventually be forgotten with the passage of time, deep in their minds, in a corner that they themselves have completely forgotten, this memory still exists. The faint worship in their hearts towards the world's strongest racer, no matter how weak it is, will never disappear from the moment it was born. It's just like a rootless duckweed floating outside without a place to settle down. Who is the world's fastest man? No one has ever been able to give an accurate answer to this question. Even the world's F1 legend, Schumacher, has lost many races. However, ever since you've proven yourself in this car racing competition, there's a well-deserved answer to this unresolved question. You don't need everyone to acknowledge you, because it's an objective fact that you're the strongest. Just like the sun in the sky, no one can see it at night, but no one can deny that it's always there. That's why the ownerless power of faith that's drifting all over the place will all come to you. Become the power of the heavenly Holy Grail and me. So that's how it is. No wonder there are billions of power of faith here. According to Lu Li, in today's world, unless it's a primitive tribe that is especially uninformed, who wouldn't know about cars? Who can guarantee that they haven't thought about the question of who can drive faster in their lives? Even if it's just a passenger in a car, when they see their car overtaking or being overtaken by someone else, they will occasionally have a thought in their mind. Am I faster in this car or someone else's car? Have these people's thoughts become power of faith? Chen Guang looked at the power of faith on the ground with rapt attention, and very quickly saw the difference. The extremely thick power of faith was most likely provided by the audience that had witnessed him becoming the racing god today. One of the power of faith actually gave him a sense of familiarity. But what was even more ridiculous was its thickness. The thinnest of other people's power of faith was as thin as silk, but the one in front of him was as thick as AF** king thigh. Whose is this? How much do you worship me? Chapter 265. This is the power of faith of the leather-clad beauty, Lu Fei, who has been racing with you for the past few days. Liu Li explained in time, her thoughts are in it, so you find it familiar. This woman has completely taken you for a god. Chen Guang was overjoyed. Then according to what you said, I can make her do anything now? Liu Li rolled her eyes. You can try. At least before she is freed from her racing fanatic emotions, she can't resist any of your requests. Why, do you want to sleep with her? No, 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 how could I think of such a vulgar thing? Money is fundamental. With money, what girl can't I get? I want her to make me rich. Chen Guang looked at Liu Li disdainfully. You short-sighted god at the bottom of a well. Scram. Idiot. Destined to be alone. What the hell do you know? Chen Guang cursed and found another one, which was actually about the same thickness as Lu Fei's. Who the F***ck is this? That damn sissy from Thailand, Wu Pan Juanyao's. What the F***ck? No wonder that damn sissy kept wandering around me before I drank the water. No kidding, the old man began to panic. I must stay away from this guy later. There was also a very thick power of faith. Liu Li didn't explain further, but Chen Guang didn't need to think to know that these must be provided by the audience. In addition, there was a relatively thick power of faith. Chen Guang speculated that it might be from some professional racers or racing-related people. Racers who like to watch racing programs must have a much stronger power of faith than ordinary people. As for the largest quantity of silk and even the nano level below silk, it must be the world's most common people. Can this power of faith be upgraded? How about I go and participate in some world-class competition? Lioli shook her head. No, when the racing god training field was perfected, the power of faith was already fixed. No matter how you display your ability, it will be of no use. TSK, you don't even have this little ability to upgrade, and you call yourself a divine artifact. You're really weak. Chen Guang expressed his disdain. Do you think the world in a cup is a cabbage in your house? You can do whatever you want. It involves profound godly power and laws that even I don't understand. Don't be fooled by the fact that it's just a grand perfection stage driving god training ground. If a mortal god from the god realm could comprehend the changes that happened in that instant, they would instantly rise by countless levels, reaching the heavens in a single step. It can almost reach the level of a god emperor. You bastard, you're still pretending to be innocent after getting a bargain. Chen Guang chuckled. Alright. It's fine if I can't level up. Anyway, other than racing, the English I learned in the Sea of Sudden, my Dota and pencil sharpening skills are also very good. If I can be recognized as the best in the world, I can also have that so-called faith energy, right? Lu Li nodded. Indeed. Every world in a cup is divided into two parts. The first part is when you complete the test in the world in a cup. The second part is when you gain recognition in the real world and obtain the power of faith from others who worship you as a god. Chen Guang sighed heavily. Why did you only tell me such an important thing now? If I knew earlier, I would have gone to play professional Dota. I already said it's a hidden condition. Because of the restrictions of the Heavenly Holy Grail, I couldn't take the initiative to tell you. When the Heavenly Holy Grail chooses a savior, it wouldn't want someone who has no ambition. This is also a test for you. You have to first prove your ambition before the Heavenly Holy Grail will truly recognize you. If you have to fight for everything when others force you to do it, then what's the use of having you? You have to have your own subjective initiative. Now, I'm very happy to tell you that you've passed. Damn, she's even subjective initiative now. How many things has this woman seen recently that she shouldn't have? Could a god emperor be brainwashed by Marxism-Leninism? Damn, if such a thing really happened, Marx in the underworld would also die without regrets. With a rough idea in his heart, Chen Guang asked again, in the past, I've read in some fantasy novels that if a person wants to become a god, they must gather the power of faith to achieve godhood. The so-called power of faith in the Heavenly Holy Grail sounds the same as the power of faith in those novels, right? Lioli shook her head. You believe in those nonsense? You can become a god just by gathering some believers? Then do you think that those Sakyamanas and Jesus Christ in your world have really become gods? Don't tell me they haven't. Lioli laughed and shook her head. If they're dead, then they're dead. How can the dead become gods? The reason why I said it's the power of faith is just to make it easier for you to understand. It's not as simple as the so-called power of faith in those nonsense novels that you've read. You can understand it as everyone in this world has an invisible spiritual connection with the Heavenly Holy Grail. The thoughts in these people's minds can become the power that the Heavenly Holy Grail transforms. That's all. Earthlings are so powerful. They're that powerful. Then, the universe is so big. Why aren't there aliens who worship me? I'm not convinced. I want extraterrestrial fans too. I'm not happy with only a few billion fans. Little brat, you're quite creative. If there's really some unlucky extraterrestrial that accidentally comes to Earth and is within the radiation range of the Heavenly Holy Grail, it will indeed provide you with the power of faith. Chen Guang spread his hands. What you mean is that a dignified artifact's radiation range is only the size of Earth. It's so weak, okay? As for how big the universe is, Hawking will tell you. Shut up. Isn't this because you're too much of a scammer? If you can upgrade the Heavenly Holy Grail to the 9th level of Beyond Heaven, of course you can envelop this whatever universe. What I gave you is an artifact that can grow. But you're still in the novice village of Jianling Tian. A generation of artifact in your hands is a crude wooden stick with an attack power of 1 to 2. You have the cheek to say that it's weak? The 9th level of Beyond Heaven. Chen Guang rolled his eyes again. Another lifetime series. After finally clarifying the matter, Chen Guang changed the topic. By the way, can we change this statue? I'm a dignified Chinese after all. This time, it was Wang Qing who gave me the GTR. It's not like I chose it myself. It won't be good if this gets out, right? Liu Li snapped her fingers. Regarding the appearance, you have 2 choices. One is the Alto U in the Racing God training ground. The other is the GTR you drive when you're at the perfect level. Which one do you want? The Alto. I have feelings for the Alto. Anyway, it's just for show. Liu Li nodded. As you wish. Before she finished speaking, the originally cool God of War GTR statue instantly turned into a 7-story tall Alto. Chen Guang looked at the new statue and nodded in satisfaction. Not bad, it has the effect of being old. The degree of restoration is really high. Even the cracks on the headlight glass look so realistic. So this was how the Alto looked from the outside. Thinking back to when he drove this crappy thing to 400 kilometers per hour, it was really touching. Going around to the side to take a look, Chen Guang exclaimed, "Damn it. The degree of restoration is so high. Can't you give me a whole car? This is still AF * king half a car. I can't accept this style. I'll change back to the GTR. Liu Li, sorry, you only have one chance to choose. There's no other way." Chen Guang turned his head to look at the half Alto for a long time. Thinking about it, the artistic feel of a half car is much better than a new sports car. It's not unacceptable. The AQ spirit had always been so useful. Chapter 266. Actually, Chen Guang was a bit puzzled. According to Azure, there were 3,000 worlds in the Holy Grail, and it was one of the top 10 godly weapons in the Endless God realm. The world that Earth was in was just the weakest of the weakest worlds under the Endless God realm. Why was the so-called power of faith in the minds of some mortals able to accelerate the operation of the heavenly Holy Grail? Earthlings were actually so awesome. I've always felt that Earthlings were an inferior race with backward technology in the universe. My worldview has been flipped upside down. Speaking of which, from what Azure said, there really are aliens in the universe. I actually know such a big secret. So humans aren't alone. Chen Guang fell into a reverie. This feeling of suddenly finding a companion was pretty good. Am I finally going to be the first man in the world to verify the existence of aliens? You ignorant wretches. My God Emperor said. There really are aliens. I'll go get a Nobel Prize in biology. That's what I decided. Forget it, no matter what Azure said was great news. I really have to think about how to prove the other 3 abilities. God of English? Okay, pretend I didn't think about it. Can I prove something like this? Someone said Liang. I only have 2 words, hee hee. God of pencil sharpening? This feeling is barely possible. I'll find a chance to go on TV, participate in Guinness or something, and perform my pencil sharpening skills in front of everyone. But there aren't many non-humans in this world that can worship the god of pencil sharpening, right? When the time comes, the input and output might not be proportional. After expending so much effort, he only managed to attract the power of faith from a few idiots. This was too depressing. I'll bet 50 cents that there are no more than 10,000 people in this world who will think about who is the best man at sharpening pencils. 1,000? There should be at least 100. I'm not very confident either. Just thinking about it makes me sad. Dota level? It's time to stand up and save Sean's glory. My mission is calling. Dota isn't just a game that exists alone. Although dogs and pigs are irreconcilable, if I can prove my undeniable dominance in the field of Dota, a large number of people will more or less acknowledge the fact that I'm the strongest esports player in history. Then, should I buy a team or build one myself? Just thinking about it makes me excited. After all, I already have hundreds of millions in assets. Just as Chen Guang was letting his imagination run wild, he suddenly realized something. Jiangliuwa. F*ck me, if I meet this nemesis, will I be able to act cool happily? Oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you. Due to the completion of the racing god training field, the power of faith is constantly pouring in, and the preparation of the world in a cup has been greatly advanced. So, I can probably tell you in advance that the world of punishment that you want is coming soon. Chen Guang was dumbfounded. F*ck. It won't affect my mom's surgery, right? Liuli shook her head. That won't happen. The power of destiny is changing your mother's fate, so no matter how fast the realm of punishment is, it will have to wait until your mother's operation is complete. Chen Guang heaved a sigh of relief. I'm relieved. Liuli gloomily looked at him and said, I advise you not to take it lightly. Let me tell you something in advance. This time, the punishment world is beyond your imagination. Beyond my imagination? Were they going to eat him? Don't scare me. Chen Guang said as he walked in Liuli's direction. No kidding, he had been scared by Liuli's alarmist talk. Liuli looked at him with a mischievous smile. I'm not scaring you, it's a big surprise. Then you have to help me. By the way, didn't you say that the power of faith can replenish your divine power? You haven't even put on that lustrous feather robe, so where did your divine power go? Do you also need to consume divine power to surf the internet? Chen Guang finally realized that something was wrong. As he spoke, he calmly continued to approach Liuli. From the moment he had entered the world in a cup until now, this woman had only been facing him. Apart from that, she had been moving in a small area, as if she was deliberately hiding something behind her. On the other side, Liuli's face was red, as if her secret had been seen through. She was thinking about how to fool Chen Guang. Suddenly, Chen Guang took a step forward and rushed to her side. He took another step forward and turned his head to look behind Liuli. F*ck. What the F*ck am I seeing? A computer? And it's a top-notch water-cooling mod set. Am I F*king seeing things? Sennhei HD 800 headphones. Bayer A2 earphones. Asus Faith keyboard and mouse set, Huawei M3 Deluxe set. F*ck, this is inhumanly rich. Speaking of which, isn't this the world in a cup? Why the hell am I seeing these strange things? Chen Guang continued sprinting forward and finally stood behind Liuli before she could react. Then, he turned his head around and looked back. 2 white buttocks. Smooth, streamlined, fair back, and those 2 long legs. Oh my God. How perfect. I understand now. No wonder this woman kept complaining that she didn't have enough spiritual energy and couldn't recover. She actually spent that precious divine power on a bunch of luxurious suits. Not only that, she could only produce half of the white fog on her body. Even the fried eggs were only half cooked. Even if she had to save and save, she had to ensure that she could go online. What kind of stubborn netizens are these? Bastard. Liuli finally realized that she was exposed and screamed. Before she finished speaking, Chen Guang only felt a fist coming from afar and instantly blasted in front of him. F*ck, this punch was worth it. After being blasted into the air by the fist, Chen Guang returned to the modern world. At this time, the cup was still by his mouth, and it seemed that less than 0.1 second had passed in the outside world. When he opened his eyes, he saw Wu Pan Junyao swaying around him. Chen Guang quietly stretched out a foot and tripped this butterfly-like buddy's foot. The handsome and beautiful dark knight temptress of the generation, Mr. Wu Pan Junyao, who was one of the top 10 underground car kings in the world, screamed and fell off the podium. This damn sissy worships me so much. F***ck, this guy's power of faith seems to be a bit thicker than Lu Fei's. How terrifying. The following car auction and the big gift from Renault, Chen Guang didn't have much interest in it. He left it all to Lu Fei to handle. When he thought of the unimaginable punishment realm that Liu Li said at the end, he really felt a little uneasy. There was no need to say more about the power of fate. It forcibly solved the problem of the kidney source on the spot. It was not an exaggeration to say that it was a miracle. Then there was no need to think about how terrifying the punishment realm would be. What was even more helpless was that until now, Liu Li hadn't revealed any information. Forcibly creating a sense of mystery, forcibly preventing people from living a peaceful life. Chapter 267. The auction of a total of 12 cars was extraordinarily smooth. In less than half an hour, all of them were swept clean on the spot. Schroeder, Diesel, and the others lost everything, but these car kings all wanted to buy their cars back, and the prices they offered were more straightforward than the last. The rich and overbearing Frant even doubled the price of his car. The other car kings did not encounter such a crazy competition like Frant, and at most, they only raised the original price by 1.5 times. They bought their cars back, on the one hand, because they were all their favorite things, and on the other hand, they felt that this car had witnessed the birth of a generation's god of racing, and it had an extraordinary commemorative significance. In addition, Chen Guang's act of becoming a god also caused the price of the previous 3 cars to soar. All in all, the 12 cars that participated in the auction sold for an average price of 13 million yuan. A total of 156 million yuan was entered into the account. Coupled with the 2 million euros sent by Renault, which was equivalent to 14.69 million yuan, and the total prize money of the competition of 34 million yuan, Chen Guang's crazy act of becoming a god instantly exploded, earning 246.69 million yuan. It was more than twice as much as the 70 million that Lu Fei had originally thought. Chen Guang became a rich man overnight, and he was not inferior to those who bought the lottery and won the jackpot. Chen Guang did not stay here to continue to enjoy the worship of others. It was meaningless. Anyway, no matter how much he shouted, the power of faith that could be obtained from the heavenly Holy Grail had already been fixed. At this time, it was already 9:30 in the evening, and the last flight from Shangjiang to Wujing was at 10:40, so he had to rush to the airport as soon as possible. It was indeed worry-free to have Lu Fei's help in everything. Long before the start of the competition, she had found the person in charge of the Asia-Pacific region of the UBS Bank. When the competition ended and the auction began, Chen Guang's personal UBS account was completely settled. Excluding the 7 million yuan that had been transferred before, the 197.69 million yuan in Chen Guang's bank card was all deposited on the spot. Chen Guang's hand trembled again, and he decisively transferred 10 million to Wang Qing, leaving only 187.69 million on the card. Even if he burned someone else's car into an iron shell, the insurance company wouldn't pay for it. Since the money in his hands was still warm, he wouldn't feel the heartache if he paid for it. It was better to return it quickly. In addition, UBS was known as the safest personal bank in the world, but Chen Guang always had a feeling that his money had been targeted by Lu Li. God knows what this emperor god was planning to do, and he felt completely insecure. Even the safest Swiss bank would not be able to deal with Azure spying. Alas, when he thought of Liu Li and looked down at the UBS black card in his hand, Chen Guang really couldn't feel happy at all. God bless me, don't let me lose all of my money. That's not right either. The heavens might not be as influential as Liu Li. They might not be able to protect me, so I felt sorry for myself. If I remember correctly, when I'm using my phone, that woman can only watch videos, chat, and browse Weibo to read articles, right? That computer must have been freshly made by her using the power of faith. While talking to me, she's secretly playing with her computer. She's quite hardworking. Speaking of which, when I glanced at the monitor just now, it seemed to be a very familiar game interface. It vaguely looked like Dota 2. F***ck. This woman, she just made a computer, and she's already using my phone's 4G to connect to Dota 2. I'm done for. A serious internet addict and a super addicted gamer wants to be my financial butler? My waist hurts so much. Forget it. Because of Lioli, the old man became a god and became a millionaire. Then, because of her, he would lose everything. That was not something she could not accept. But thinking about it, if I worked myself to death only to end up empty-handed, how can I stop her? How can I stop her? Sitting in the car on the way to the airport, Chen Guang's heart was filled with melancholy. He didn't feel the joy of making a fortune, only endless pain in his balls. When he thought about the upcoming punishment realm, Chen Guang felt even more uneasy. Seeing his troubled look, Lu Fei said, "What's wrong? Are you worried about your mother's surgery?" Chen Guang sighed in his heart again. That's right, this was the third thing, and it was also the thing that he felt the most uneasy about. No matter how confident he seemed on the surface, the kidney transplant was a major surgery among major surgeries. Before the dust settled, it was impossible for him to calm down. He had been out for 5 days, and he didn't know if his father had been so worried that he had a nervous breakdown. His mother hadn't seen him for 5 days in a row, and the surgery was approaching, so she must be even more uneasy. Although he had been on the phone often, he only reported the good news and nothing bad. His parents also said that their health was improving, and the success rate of the surgery was almost 100%. Tang Ying was also full of good news. But after all, he didn't see it with his own eyes, so he couldn't calm down. Fortunately, I can finally go back. I'll arrive in Beijing tomorrow afternoon, and then I'll give them a big surprise. Chen Guang nodded and said, "Yeah." Lu Fei suddenly sighed and hugged him from the side. She said, "Don't put too much pressure on yourself, there's no point in worrying. You have to believe in the current medical technology. Since there's no problem with the kidney, the surgery has a high chance of success. I heard that you found the famous Professor Lu." Chen Guang nodded and said, "That's him." "Then it's in the bag. Come on, give me a smile," Lu Fei said as she held Chen Guang's face with both hands and forced him to look at her. Squeezing out a smile on Chen Guang's face, Lu Fei abruptly moved her face over and gave a peck on his lips. Shortly after, she let go and pointed at Chen Guang, who had a blushing face, and giggled. Originally, she planned to resolve the last regret in her heart today. However, it seemed like Chen Guang didn't really realize this. At the same time, it was obvious that he was most worried about his mother's condition. As the saying went, a mother worried about her son. At this moment, Chen Guang's family wasn't the only one worrying about him. He himself had flown a few thousand miles and changed his fate with his insane actions. At the same time, he also changed the fate of his family. Now that he had just escaped from the emotional turmoil, it was normal for him to worry about his mother who was thousands of miles away. No matter how much money one had, it couldn't be compared to the life of one's parents. If money was gone, one could earn it back. If money couldn't be earned back, one could earn enough to spend. However, if the life of one's loved one was gone, even if one bought half of the world, one couldn't buy the life of one's loved one back from heaven. After laughing for a long time, Lu Fei hugged Chen Guang again and didn't say a word. These past few days, she had experienced ups and downs with this big boy. She watched him appear like a comet and conquer the entire world in 5 days. All beauties loved heroes, and Lu Fei was no exception. Not to mention that she was a crazy racing fan, so of course she would fall in love with the world's strongest racing god. But now, Lu Fei had seen through the weak side of this big boy's heart. His originally invulnerable godlike image suddenly came alive. A god who had fallen to the mortal world was much more charming than a god who stood high above. Lu Fei's strong feelings of worship, which had no foundation, gradually fell to the ground. Not only did it not weaken, it took root and sprouted. The physical distance between them didn't seem that important anymore. I just want my heart to be closer to him. There's no need to rush things between men and women. Hugging Chen Guang and feeling Chen Guang's body temperature, Lu Fei thought so. Is it comfortable to pinch? Okay, this guy's perfect image was broken again. It's okay. It's very elastic and really round. Can I put my hand in? Stinky pervert. I've really seen through you. Can't you be more mature? How could I fall in love with a loser like you? Can't we learn from the tall, rich, and handsome guys on TV and play some high and mighty tricks? Chen Guang scratched his head with one hand and continued to take advantage of her with the other. I'm just thinking that I'm about to get on the plane. After I arrive in Wujing, I have to rush to the hospital. I don't have many chances, so I want to hurry. Besides, there's a very important part missing today. Lu Fei blushed and looked at him with a burning gaze. Can you be more shameless? This car has a lot of space. Why don't we shake it on the road? That's possible. You really King believed it. I'll strangle you to death. Rubber machine gun. Hit 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 hit. I'll kill you. Chapter 268. Lu Fei's rampage continued until they were almost at the airport. It seemed that she also knew that after returning to Wujing, she could no longer play with Chen Guang as she did now. When Lu Fei got out of the car, her face was red. After taking 2 steps, her legs became weak and she almost fell. Chen Guang quickly supported her from the side. Be careful not to fall. Lu Fei turned around and stepped on him fiercely. It's all your fault. Chen Guang awkwardly chuckled as he felt puzzled in his heart. On the way from the mountain track to here, he didn't know what was going on. Maybe it was his super weak self-control as an old bachelor, or maybe it was Lu Fei's excessive indulgence. In short, the two of them laughed and played in the car. When Chen Guang came to his senses, his hand was already in a strange position that he shouldn't have touched. He himself was at a loss. In his impression, he was not such a daring person at all. Why did he do such a beastly thing when he was with Lu Fei? Or rather, why did he do such a thing that was worse than a beast? Because of her indulgence, I became unscrupulous and awakened courage and courage. From now on, I will embark on the road of a generation of dirty kings? After thinking about it, no. I feel that I haven't changed. What was I thinking at that time? Was I testing her tolerance little by little, and then a little bit more? It seems like it. Chen Guang had never been a saint. In the face of Lu Fei's indulgence and deliberate seduction, he couldn't resist at all. Along the way, Lu Fei was also enchanted. She thought that there was a partition between the front and back seats of the business car arranged by Uncle Cheng. Even if the back seat was noisy, the driver in the front seat would not know anything, so she was even more presumptuous. In this enclosed space, it was not easy for the two people who had poor self-control not to take the last step. However, when the two of them got out of the car together and were blown by the cold wind outside, their minds suddenly became sober. Recalling what had happened in the car, the woman felt a little embarrassed, but the man was secretly worried that he had gone too far and would lose a close friend like Lu Fei. Chen Guang was a little scared. He didn't understand women very well, and he didn't know if he and Lu Fei were friends or something else. Although she admires my driving skills, her other identity is that of a strong woman managing a large company. She won't always be my brainless fan, right? In the future, will she also realize that something is wrong and secretly decide to distance herself from me in the future? Chen Guang began to worry about personal gains and losses again. He always felt that everything that had happened in the past few days was too surreal. Whether it was the 180 million in his UBS account or the inexplicable strange relationship between him and Lu Fei, they were all so strange. As he was about to board the plane back to Wujing, these problems and situations suddenly rushed into his head, making him feel at a loss, and his brain wasn't enough. These days, Lu Fei put down her own affairs and did her best to help him. Chen Guang certainly knew her kindness and was grateful to her. But why did it become like this unknowingly? He didn't want to lose such a forthright and generous friend like Lu Fei, who could help him do everything properly, but he couldn't control his wretched heart as an old virgin. Of course, he knew that for a girl, his performance seemed to be completely unworthy of being a good friend, and he should be kept at a respectful distance. But knowing in his heart didn't mean that he could control himself. I'm really a terrible friend. What are you thinking about? As the two of them walked into the airport, Lu Fei asked when she noticed Chen Guang's absent-minded expression. Chen Guang took a deep breath. Yes. Lu Fei suddenly covered his mouth with her hand. Do you want to say sorry to me? Chen Guang's face turned red, and he nodded slightly. Lu Fei slapped him hard on the shoulder. Hey! It's just a small matter. Is it worth a generation's god of racing to be so indecisive? I haven't said anything, and you're already tangled up. Chen Guang was puzzled. You're not angry? Lu Fei rolled her eyes. Are you stupid? If I'm really angry, I shouldn't be angry at you, I should be angry at myself. If I don't agree, you can still use force, right? Hey, although I've never been in a relationship, I'm not a virgin like you. Is your understanding of women in the negative? He was seen through. Chen Guang covered his face, pretending to be pretentious in the car for 10,000 years, but it couldn't change the tragic fact that he was an old bachelor. So what if I don't understand women? You've really helped me a lot these few days, but As he spoke, Chen Guang sighed slightly, and his face showed an ashamed expression, and he felt a little regretful. Lu Fei blinked at him, and her eyes became brighter. Until now, she suddenly realized that this god of racing that she had always admired was actually a university student in his 20s, and he was younger than her by more than 4 years. Looks like my seducing him has left a shadow in his heart. No, I have to cure him. She patted Chen Guang's head again. What nonsense are you thinking about? Am I such a fussy person? I understand your mentality. I know you treat me as a real friend, and you care about me a lot. You're afraid that I'll alienate you because of this, right? Chen Guang nodded. Yeah. You're looking down on me. If you weren't younger than me by more than 4 years, would definitely be angry if you dared to think like this. However, seeing that you're still a little brother, I understand your thoughts. I'm also too lazy to promise you anything. Anyway, a little boy like you just likes to think nonsense. Even if I say it, you'll feel that it's hard to fathom a person's mind. Maybe if I say this today, I won't think the same tomorrow or something. You'll also think that if I say that the things that happened these few days are over, and we'll just be normal friends from now on, and that men and women shouldn't touch each other, you'll be disappointed again. It's not easy to find a great beauty that I can take advantage of, and she's gone just like that. My heart hurts. Lu Fei was indeed Lu Fei. Her words completely exposed Chen Guang's current mentality. Chen Guang's mouth was wide open, and he felt like he had been completely seen through. What the F***ck? Lu Fei suddenly laughed, and she rocked back and forth with laughter. You're really cute and innocent. Why don't you think about what kind of person I am? Who can you deceive with your little tricks? She realized that she was liking this guy more and more. Chen Guang sighed. I feel so weak. I'm not a match for you at all. Chapter 269. Lu Fei shook her head. Let me tell you a piece of good news. I don't hate the weak you. Chen Guang was overjoyed. Doesn't that mean I can still, in your dreams? In the future, it won't be so easy for you to take advantage of me when I return to Wujing. But it's not like there's no chance at all. It depends on your performance. Well, it also depends on my mood. But if you really want to hit on me, I advise you to give up. I'm 4 years older than you. Also, don't think that you're very powerful with a net worth of 100 million. You're far from it. Of course, I plan to get married when I'm 35. While I'm still young, I can accompany you for a few more years. I'm telling you in advance, if I meet someone I like before, you'll have to accept your fate. Chen Guang began to curse in his heart. He cursed that Lu Fei would never meet a suitable man. Are you cursing me? Do you want to keep eating for free? F***CK. I've been seen through again. Since you're so cute, I'll tell you a piece of news. What? Originally, I really wanted to let you eat tonight, but you insisted on going back to Wujing. Of course, I fully understand your feelings. So you see, I waited until I got on the plane to tell you this. I didn't want you to be in a dilemma. Look how considerate I am. Chen Guang punched his heart hard and said with a sad face, you might as well not tell me at all. That's more considerate. Finally, the plane took off with a bang, bringing the heartbroken Chen Guang to Wujing City. On the other side, an entire hour had passed. Lin Jingwei and the others who stayed in front of the computer still couldn't calm down. Under everyone's request, Lin Jingwei pressed the replay button again and again. On the computer screen, the scene of the Mat GTR speeding away was replayed again and again. They had seen it 5 or 6 times, but every time it was replayed, everyone's heart would be in their throat. His speed was too fast, as if he would smash into the edge of the road at any moment. Finally, Gaoya grabbed the mouse and pressed the pause button. Okay, I'm done. If I keep watching this madman's competition, Lil Sun's brain is going to be deprived of blood. Zhuo Jingxi, who was at the side, supported Sun Xiaoxuan's limp body. She thought about how Gaoya, a sharp girl, would often mention Sun Xiaoxuan's feelings for Chen Guang in front of her. Zhuo Jingxi sighed slightly. In the end, her student still noticed something was amiss. Zhuo Jingxi looked at the computer monitor again. In the paused image, there was only a black shadow in the driver's seat of the Mat GTR. But for some reason, Zhuo Jingxi seemed to be able to sense the determination and madness in the black shadow's eyes through time and space. This guy really didn't have it easy. Brother Guang, now that you've earned so much money, you're going to turn from a salted fish into a rich man, right? When he comes back, we have to eat from the rich. Just at this time, Lady Whitesnake suddenly came up with such a sentence. Everyone turned to look at him. Why did this guy's brain circuit seem to be different from everyone else's? Why are you guys looking at me like that? Don't you think what I said makes sense? Lin Jingwei punched him. You're right, but I still feel like something's wrong. You're not paying attention to the same thing as us. Sun Xiaoxuan, who was at the side, didn't say a word. She was happy for Chen Guang. No matter how dangerous it seemed, he had defeated everyone, including himself. But in her heart, she was disappointed for herself. From now on, Chen Guang was no longer the broke teenager who was so poor that he had to work online to support his family. Just as Bai Nyangzi said, Chen Guang was now rich. His personal assets were close to 200 million. What kind of concept was that? Sun Xiaoxuan, who came from an ordinary family, couldn't imagine it at all. In fact, Sun Xiaoxuan's family wasn't poor. In her hometown, Jiangnan Province, Wumian City, they were definitely above the middle class. Her father, Sun Quan, was a construction engineer with an annual income of more than 300,000. So, when Chen Guang compensated Pan Jiang with more than 10,000 yuan in medical fees because of her, she felt very bad and wanted to immediately return the money to Chen Guang. 10,000 yuan wasn't a big deal for her, but Chen Guang's net worth was close to 200 million. Her father couldn't even make that much money after working for 600 years. Thinking of that number, her mind went blank. Different from Lin Jingwei, Bai Nyangzi, Xiong Jinka, or Gaoya. These people all treated Chen Guang as a brother or a classmate, but Sun Xiaoxuan was completely different from them. All this time, Sun Xiaoxuan had been thinking about finding a suitable opportunity to confess to Chen Guang. Then, after graduation, she could stay with him in Wujing. If he was willing, she could also let him go to Wumian City with her. Then, her family could find some connections to get them a job in the environmental protection system of Wumian City. Then, they could get married and have children together. Slowly, they could raise their children and grow old together. Slowly, they could watch their children grow up, get married, and have children. Then, they could help their children take care of their grandchildren. She hoped that she could live healthily until she was 80 or 90 years old, so that she could take care of him when he was too old to walk and needed someone to take care of him. What's more, he didn't want to grow old before him, because if he died first, he would become an old man and live alone in the world. From the moment she fell in love with Chen Guang, Sun Xiaoxuan's belief had been firm. She just couldn't muster up the courage to confess, so she was waiting for the right opportunity. But why did he suddenly become a rich man of 200 million yuan? Sun Xiaoxuan was still in a daze until Gaoye walked with her back to the girls' dorm. Xiaoxuan, what's wrong? Aren't you happy that Chen Guang won? Gaoye noticed her abnormality and poked Sun Xiaoxuan's shoulder. Sun Xiaoxuan took a deep breath and said, Gaoye, am I not good enough for Chen Guang? Gaoye was stunned and said, what's wrong with you, little girl? You're so pretty. How can you not be good enough for him? Sun Xiaoxuan shook her head. The lady in the leather suit who helped him auction the car is also beautiful. Her figure is much better than mine. I'm thin and short, and she's tall and full. That sister can still help him, but I can't help him at all. Gaoye grabbed her and said, if you don't make things clear today, I can't let you go back to the dorm. I know you like him, but you can't put yourself too low. Chen Guang is good, but you're not bad either, right? You're not thin and short. You're small and cute, okay? How are you worse than that lady in the leather suit? It's just a completely different style. You don't know how many people in our class have a crush on you. Do you think Pan Jiang is the only one? It's just that the others know they can't compete with Chen Guang, so they keep it to themselves. But Sun Xiaoxuan was a little shaky. Chapter 270. Gaoye rolled her eyes again. I know what you're trying to say. But now that Chen Guang has suddenly become so rich, you're under pressure. You used to think that you could help him with your circumstances, but now you can't help him at all. You're going to be a burden, so you're starting to feel inferior and feel sorry for yourself, right? Sun Xiaoxuan turned her head away slightly and nodded lightly. Gaoye had seen through her. That's why I said you're silly. Think about it. When Chen Guang was so poor that he had to freeload off others, did you look down on him? No. Then what do you like about him? Sun Xiaoxuan thought about it and wanted to say something, but she couldn't. I don't know. I just like him. That's right. You like him for who he is. It doesn't matter if he's rich or poor. From another perspective, Chen Guang isn't completely uninterested in you, right? You can't have no confidence in yourself, can you? Sun Xiaoxuan thought about it again and blushed. He probably likes me a little too. Gaoye shrugged. That's it. Since you like him so much, can you have some confidence in Chen Guang? As long as you like each other, it doesn't matter how much money he has. When a man and a woman are together, it's about feelings. Not money. As long as they really like each other, money doesn't matter. There's no such thing as being worthy or not. If Chen Guang really becomes a different person because he's rich and doesn't like you anymore, do you really need to like that kind of person? Is there a need to keep thinking about her? Are you in a hurry to stick your warm face to a cold butt? Sun Xiaoxuan's eyes lit up. Gaoye pushed her and said, all right, go to sleep. I don't even know how much you like him. You've been privately voted the prettiest girl in our school. Have some confidence. You're not even afraid of that Wen, and you're afraid of losing to someone else? Losing to me? The money I lost to Chen Guang? Sun Xiaoxuan nodded heavily. Yes. Thank you, Gaoye. What are you thanking me for? Isn't that what best friends do? Gaoye put an arm around her shoulders. What about Lin Jingwei and you? Gaoye pouted. We'll think about it when he becomes more manly. Xiao Lin is going to be infected by Bai Nyangzi and turn into Lin Pingji. You know Lin Pingji, right? It was the one in the smiling, proud wanderer who practiced the sunflower manual, oh no, the Bixia swordplay manual. Pure sissy, 24K. Don't talk about him like that. I think he's sincere to you. The two of them whispered to each other as they went upstairs. On the other side, Zhuo Jingxi was lying on the bed, tossing and turning. But in the end, she didn't have the meticulous thoughts of a little girl like Sun Xiaoxuan. She could only laugh at herself inwardly. What am I thinking? I'm a few years older than him, and I'm his teacher. How is that possible? He helped me, not because he had any feelings for me, but because he saw me as a friend, out of a sense of justice. How can I be so dirty and make him look down on me for no reason? If it was in the past, it would have been better. But now that he's so rich, if I were to steal young grass, it would definitely become a laughing stock. I shouldn't think about all these things anymore. I should focus on my own matters first. I haven't even gotten rid of my own troubles, so what right do I have to think about these meaningless things? On the other side of Gokyo University, Wen was still sitting cross-legged on the rooftop of the dormitory. Second Uncle Wen appeared behind her like a ghost. Chen Guang Wen. Wen didn't open her eyes. She only responded, "Oh. Okay, I got it. Don't you want to know how he won? I think there's something fishy going on." Second Uncle Wen said in surprise. He thought that Wen would stop her cultivation and stand up to ask for details. Wen still didn't open her eyes. I don't want to know how he won, and I don't need to know. It's meaningless. I understand why you guys are suspicious of him. In fact, I don't understand the changes that happened to him. But that's not important. For me, Chen Guang is Chen Guang. The pauper Chen Guang, the racing god Chen Guang, and the very capable Chen Guang are all Chen Guang. From the day I met him, he has always been an ordinary Chen Guang. I believe in my eyes and heart. I won't believe in your random guesses. Second Uncle, don't disturb my cultivation. Let's go. Second Uncle Wen's expression stagnated. Wen's anger seemed to faintly drive the air around her to become heavy. He helplessly shook his head and gradually disappeared. After Second Uncle left for a long time, Wen slowly opened her eyes. Looking at the sky in the direction of Shangjiang, she muttered to herself, "You've become even more powerful? That's good. Maybe one day you'll be able to make everyone unable to ignore you." What the hell did you do behind my back? Sooner or later you'll have to confess to me. When this lady can't hold it in anymore, it'll be the time when you enjoy the Manchurian Qing's 10 great tortures. Chen Guang didn't know how many people in Wujing City were having sleepless nights because of his magnificent feat at this time. He was sleeping soundly with his head touching Lu Fei's head. Before falling asleep, he opened his eyes and looked at Lu Fei's head for a long time. He wanted to find some traces of the power of faith that was as thick as a thigh. Thinking about it carefully, a white thread as big as her head, no, it should be called a pillar of qi. It was connected to the cup in front of him. It was really terrifying. But why couldn't he find it? Why couldn't he see it? Why do you keep looking at my head? Can't you let me sleep? Lu Fei opened her eyes and glared at him fiercely. Damn it, your thick power of faith must have been mixed with water. Can you be a little more respectful to the God in your heart? Dawdle again. I'll strangle you to death. He closed his eyes and went to sleep. He didn't want to think about anything else. It's really unlucky to be on a plane with you. Every time, I can only buy a transfer ticket. What a waste. The next morning at 10 o'clock, when the two of them finally sat in Lu Fei's Porsche 918, Lu Fei couldn't help but complain. Chen Guang was also confused. Maybe I have a grudge with the airline. Lu Fei rolled her eyes. Come on, people don't even want to talk to you if you don't have a platinum card, right? Should I send you back to school or to the hospital? Let me drive. It's been hard on you. I'll send you home first, then I'll take a taxi to the hospital. Chen Guang was really considerate. Lu Fei was amused. You're going to teach me real kung fu again? That's right, real kung fu at 80 kilometers per hour. From this angle, I can't imagine that you're actually a god of racing. Sitting in Chen Guang's car, Lu Fei was really bored. You don't understand real driving skills. Real top-notch skills are never learned by driving like a slave. You have to treat the car like a friend and treat it like a family. Only then can you be one with the car, and your driving skills will be natural. How do you think I trained? I'll tell you the truth. It's from running the internet for a year. As Chen Guang spoke, he took out his phone and tossed it over to Lu Fei. Open up my app and see how many orders I've taken in the past year. Lu Fei opened the app suspiciously. More than 3,000 orders. Chen Guang pretended to be mysterious. That's right. On average, more than 10 orders a day. It's from this life of running the internet day after day that I've trained my skills. That day when I said I'm going to teach you real kung fu, I wasn't lying. This is my biggest secret. No one else knows about it. I'm only telling you. Don't ever let anyone else know. No way. I also want to run the internet. Didn't you say you don't want to race? It's not good for a girl to run the internet. Remember the stick I used to smash Zhong Bai's car window the first time we met? If it wasn't for that, I would have been robbed many times. Chen Guang rolled his eyes. She actually believed it. Oh, forget it. Chapter 271. Chen Guang stood outside the ward for nearly 5 minutes before he finally plucked up the courage to push the door open and enter. Seeing that he was finally back, Chen Guoli was ecstatic, but he quickly hid it. Feng Rong, on the other hand, was much calmer. She looked at him cheerfully and said, Xiao Guang, did you say thank you to your dad's comrade? I'm really sorry that you keep bothering him like this. Chen Guang replied, it's all right. Uncle is quite a nice person. That's right, Chen Guang lied to Chen Guoli, saying that his money was Jiang Yage's kept woman. Chen Guoli continued to lie to Feng Rong, saying that Chen Guang had gone to borrow money from his comrade again. It revolved around the core idea of making Feng Rong happy and the main purpose of making Chen Guoli less worried. One lie was wrapped in another, forming the main content of communication in this weird family recently. After chatting with his mother for a while, Chen Guang went downstairs to buy some fruits and flowers, then went to visit the donor's auntie in another ward. From the beginning to the end, Chen Guang did not mention a word about the other party's change of heart. Instead, he expressed his gratitude to the other party in every way, and even patted his chest to say that he would remember the other party's kindness. The gratitude fee was a total of 4 million. Chen Guoli had already paid 1 million as a deposit, and the remaining 3 million would be paid after the surgery was completed. Both parties had already signed the contract. Chen Guang did not mention the matter either. He even transferred another 100,000 from his card to the family's daughter on the spot, saying that it was for the aunt's nutrition. Chen Guang did not want to care about what happened in the past, nor did he want to be calculative about it. Right now, he just wanted to comfort the family. At the same time, Chen Guang didn't care how expensive the reward was in the eyes of ordinary people, but he felt that as long as the final result was good, he could let go of any unpleasantness in the process. When he left the donor's ward, the auntie's daughter, a first-year university student in Zhongsha City, the capital of Southeast Province, followed him out of the ward. Blushing, she pulled him to the hospital corridor and whispered shyly, Mr. Chen, I'm sorry. Looking at this pretty little girl, Chen Guang smiled and patted her on the shoulder. What's there to apologize for? I should be the one apologizing to you. I understand what happened before, and I owe you guys. No matter what, in the future, your mother's kidney will grow in my mother's body, and we will be relatives. You will be my sister. This is my phone number. In the future, if you come to the 5 capital to play, or if you need any help, just look for me. The girl lowered her head in shame. Actually, this was all my idea. I thought you would scold us. I heard that you were coming back. Last night, I thought for a long time to apologize to you, but you. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. As the girl spoke, tears began to fall. During this time, she was also under a lot of psychological pressure. The previous incident was one thing. Her mother was also a terminally ill patient, and it was the kind with no chance of survival. In front of her family, she could still hold on, but now in front of Chen Guang, she finally couldn't hold it anymore. Chen Guang's gentleness and generosity made the girl, who had no siblings, collapse. Chen Guang completely understood her feelings. Compared to her, he was actually the luckiest person. Sighing, Chen Guang reached out his hands to hold her shoulders. It's okay, don't cry, don't be sad. Sigh, I don't know how to comfort you. The girl wiped her tears and sobbed for a long time before gradually stopping. She looked up and saw that Chen Guang was still looking at her with a worried face. With red eyes, she turned her face to the side. I'm sorry, I couldn't control my emotions. It's okay, it's okay. It's good to cry to vent. Otherwise, it's easy to get sick from holding it in. It's also because I'm stupid and really don't know how to comfort people. Otherwise, how could I watch you cry? No, no, no. Mr. Chen, you're a good person, really good. I don't need to be comforted. It's been so long, I've thought it through. The girl continued to shake her head. Previously, I heard from your mother that you're a freshman at Central South University of Technology. Actually, I'm also a junior. You calling me Mr. Chen sounds so weird to me. Chen Guang joked with her. I already said that you're my sister. You can call me Chen Guang, or Brother Guang. If you want, you can just call me brother. The girl blushed again, lowered her head, and said, well, okay, Brother Guang. Right, you still don't know my name, right? I'm Fan Lingshan, you can call me Lingshan. Not you Lingshan's Lingshan. It's Fan Lingshan. The two chatted for a while, then Fan Lingshan said goodbye, turned around, and went back to the ward. Just as Chen Guang was about to go back, a figure suddenly jumped out from the corner of the wall and stood in front of him. White clothes, disheveled hair, just like Sadako. Ghost. Chen Guang retaliated with a backhand slap. The female ghost slammed into the wall. Aya. Hearing the voice, it was actually Tang Ying. After a lot of effort, Dr. Tang apologized sincerely, rubbed his head, and blew off the bump on his head. Finally, Dr. Tang, who had been slapped against the wall, calmed down. You brat, be gentler. I was just joking with you, why did you have such a big reaction? Tang Ying pushed away Chen Guang's hand, rubbing her head. She almost fainted when she slammed into the wall. How can you blame me? Isn't it because you suddenly jumped out and scared me? You scared me to death. Chen Guang rolled his eyes. It's because I don't have heart disease. If someone with heart disease was scared by you like this, they would directly lie on the operating table. Slapping away Chen Guang's hand, Tang Ying shook her white robe, and then tied up her hair again. Humph, to a little girl you act like a considerate big brother, but to an old doctor like me, you have this kind of attitude? How can you say this kind of thing? Chen Guang's face turned pale. If you're old and weak, then 99% of the women in the world are old and weak. I like what you said, forget it, I forgive you. By the way, Zhong Bai and Xiao Kai told me about your matter in Xiangjiang. In short, it's great that you can come back safely. If I knew you were going to do such a dangerous thing, I wouldn't have agreed. As Tang Ying spoke, she put her hand on Chen Guang's shoulder. Chen Guang grunted. He could hear the concern in Tang Ying's words, but he didn't take it seriously. Only those who didn't know anything would think that racing was a risk. But in fact, how could it be dangerous? It was completely beating up a child. Moreover, if he didn't prove himself through the car racing competition, God knows when he would be able to successfully trigger the hidden condition of the heavenly Holy Grail. This trip to Xiangjiang was totally worth it. Chapter 272. Chen Guang went to Tang Ying's office and sat for a long time. They talked about Feng Rong's current situation, and Tang Ying gave Chen Guang the last piece of reassurance. When Chen Guang was about to leave, he saw Tang Ying take out a pencil. "Let me sharpen it for you." 5 seconds later, a vivid miniature rose appeared in front of Tang Ying. Even the wood shavings were still floating in the air, not falling to the ground. Tang Ying was dumbfounded. "How is it? Does it look good? Does it look good? Is it cool? Do you want to learn?" Chen Guang blinked proudly. He felt good today. To prove that he was the best sharpener in the world, he had to instill this concept in the people around him. "That's right. When I get back, I'll buy a pencil and show it off to everyone I meet." Tang Ying took the rose that Chen Guang had forcefully sharpened with a pencil. Her mind was a mess, and she couldn't understand how this guy did it. If she hadn't seen him holding a knife and dancing on the pencil with her own eyes, Tang Ying would have thought it was a magic prop that he had prepared in advance. Feeling that he had successfully acted cool, Chen Guang raised his eyebrows proudly. He turned around and walked out. He guessed that his dad wouldn't be able to hold it in any longer and would come out to ask him questions. When Chen Guang was far away, Tang Ying stomped her feet. "That idiot. He didn't even sharpen the pencil core for me. How am I supposed to draw?" She took out the pencil sharpener and placed it on the neck of the pencil, ready to sharpen it again. If she cut it, the rose would be gone. After a while, she didn't cut it. Instead, she carefully took out a piece of paper and wrapped the rose that Chen Guang had sharpened in 3 layers. Then, she carefully put it in her bag and took out a pen to sharpen it herself. On the other side, Chen Guang was about to break down because of his dad. "Dad, Mom's going to have her surgery the day after tomorrow. Can you stop watching me? Let me go." No, your mom's surgery is important, but you can't ignore this. You're still young and really don't understand, but you can't let your guard down." Chen Guang was extremely helpless. "Your vitality recovery soup last time already caused me so much trouble. Don't come up with this kind of strange recipe again." "What's wrong? It doesn't taste good?" Chen Guoli had a blank look on his face. "I've tried it myself. Although it's not as pure as the authentic lamb soup, and it's a little messy, it's not that bad." "Wait, how did you know it was vitality restoring soup?" Chen Guang covered his face and thought, "Can I tell you that your son's life is in Dr. Tang's hands because of this tonic? They thought I was a patient in that area and wanted to save a good young man like me who couldn't lift weights." How much determination did he have? What if someone found out that it wasn't the case at all and thought that we, father and son, had teamed up to play hooligans? Wouldn't that be like having mud fall into one's pants? Anyway, before Mom's surgery is over, don't ever mention this to me again. Also, I'll transfer another 4 million to your account. Dad, you decide how to use it. Do you want to pay off the court's fine or do something else? Chen Guoli's eyes widened. His brain couldn't process all of this. If I remember correctly, before you left, you transferred 3 million to me as a token of appreciation. Then the day before yesterday, you transferred 4 million to me. Now you have 4 million again? Why do I feel like something is wrong? Is it because the RMB has depreciated recently, or have we become Vietnamese? Is this money in Vietnamese dong? Why do I feel like this money isn't being used as money? Chen Guang really couldn't explain it to him, so he acted like a rascal. Fine. Just take it. Don't worry about it. Your son doesn't lack money now, not at all. This was the advantage of being a son. If he couldn't explain it clearly, he would act shamelessly. Anyway, Chen Guang had a look of, what can you do to me? And you have to take the money whether you want it or not. In the end, Chen Guoli still accepted the money. Chen Guang initially thought that his father would deal with the matter with the court, but he never expected that his father would suddenly show a complicated expression and shake his head. Let's not return the money to the court for now. Let's just stay here. Huh? Chen Guang didn't understand. Chen Guoli didn't explain to him. Anyway, you won't understand even if I explain it. You don't have to worry about the family anymore. Although I don't know what you plan to do, you've already done enough. Really, it's enough. Sigh, Jiang Yage is also not bad. Don't worry too much about those scandals in the celebrity circle. If you really love her, your dad will support you. But a man can't always rely on a woman. You've already grown up. Even if you haven't graduated from university, you should think about your career. Chen Guang roughly guessed what his father was hesitating about. Just as he thought before, there must be something fishy about the food poisoning at the hot pot restaurant. Dad, I've asked you many times before. You always said that those customers got food poisoning because you bought expired ingredients. This time, you can't hide it from me anymore, right? Chen Guang frowned and finally asked this question. Chen Guoli was silent for a moment and nodded slightly. There is a problem. All the ingredients were personally picked by me. It's impossible for anything to go wrong. But this matter is really not simple. I've asked a lot of people in private, but they couldn't find out who was trying to frame me. By the way, don't blame Uncle Liao who made the judgment. He didn't hit me when I was down. If it wasn't for him, I might have to go to jail. He was also the one who suggested the bankruptcy. Anyway, I'll just wait for 10 or 20 years. As long as I don't have any assets under my name, no one can do anything to our family. Chen Guang nodded. He didn't object to Chen Guoli's idea, but he felt a headache. His father had been doing business in his hometown for many years, and he was considered a friend. If he couldn't find any clues in the county, how could Lu Zhou investigate? Forget it, there will always be a way out. I'll find a suitable time to go back to the county and try. In the past, Chen Guang didn't believe in this so-called chicken soup for the elderly. But this time, he really believed it. The next day, when he heard that Professor Lu suddenly fell ill, he was completely dumbfounded. Although he had always liked to look for Tang Ying whenever he needed help, it was more because he and Tang Ying were of the same age. Their relationship was not the same as that of ordinary family members of patients and doctors. They could be considered as sincere friends. However, Chen Guang and Professor Lu still met from time to time. Even though this old professor had a lot of patients under his name, and he wasn't as friendly as Tang Ying, the old man's medical skills were not compromised. He was always able to hit the nail on the head. This included the treatment plan for Feng Rong. Even though Tang Ying was the one who proposed it, the final decision was always made by Professor Lu. The old man wasn't the person in charge of the treatment group, but he was also responsible. But man proposes, God disposes. Just as the operation was about to begin, the original chief surgeon unexpectedly fell ill. Chapter 273. Sitting in Tang Ying's office, Chen Guang didn't smoke. Otherwise, he would have gone to a corner and smoked like a smoker. Tang Ying was busy outside. Professor Lu's sudden illness didn't only affect Feng Rong's surgery, but several other high-ranking patients were also transferred to Tang Ying's name. During her time as Professor Lu's assistant in Feng Rong's treatment group, Tang Ying had completely proven her ability. When Professor Lu first fell ill, he ordered all his patients to be transferred to Tang Ying. He wouldn't be able to trust anyone else. The old man was seriously ill, and it seemed like he wouldn't recover anytime soon. Tang Ying was also very busy. She finally talked to all of the new patients and read through all of their medical records. She finally had time to go to Chen Guang's office. As soon as she saw the bitter expression on his face, Tang Ying glared at him angrily. Ever since the news of Professor Lu's illness came out last night, Tang Ying hadn't had a good rest. She was so busy that she wanted to curse. However, when she saw this guy, she suddenly felt a lot better. Are you done? My mom's surgery tomorrow. Chen Guang could tell that Tang Ying was in a hurry. Even though he knew that the hospital would definitely have a solution, he couldn't rest until he asked her about it. Tang Ying threw a large stack of documents on the desk and turned to look at Chen Guang. Okay, I know you don't trust me. But this time, whether you trust me or not, you can only rely on me. As a doctor, I can't promise the patient's family. Even if it's you, I can only talk to you for a while. I'm really confident. Are you willing to trust me? The doctor at the next desk coughed violently, as if he was trying to warn Tang Ying. If it were any other patient's family, they wouldn't have dared to say something like this before the surgery was even done. If something went wrong, it would definitely become a medical dispute. The doctor coughed violently. Chen Guang and Tang Ying understood what he meant. He was being kind, but they ignored him. Seeing that he was being snubbed, the man snorted and walked out. Before he left, he said sarcastically, "It's good for young people to be confident, but don't cause trouble for the hospital. I'm sorry to have made things difficult for you." Chen Guang sighed. Tang Ying looked around. Seeing that there were only the two of them in the office, she walked up and stared into Chen Guang's eyes. "I told you, trust me. I'm not trying to comfort you, but I'm really confident. Of course, I wouldn't say this if it was another patient, but your mother is a perfect match with the kidney. As long as I don't cut off the liver as the kidney during the surgery, she will be fine." "Thank you." At a time like this, Chen Guang didn't know what to say. He was truly ashamed of Tang Ying's kindness. Tang Ying blinked. "Look at you. We're friends, aren't we? I have some information here. They are the records of my previous surgeries. You can take a good look at them. I'm not bragging to you, but the degree of finesse in my surgeries is not much worse than the fancy work you did yesterday when you sharpened your pencils for me. You just need to worship me crazily after reading it. I'm not going to chat with you anymore. I'm going back to work." After saying that, Tang Ying twisted her slender waist and took out another medical record. She walked to the door of the office and called a nurse over. Sometimes, Chen Guang really admired these doctors, especially Tang Ying, who was in charge of many patients in the inpatient department. He couldn't understand how these doctors' brains worked. How could they know so many patients' conditions like the back of their hands? How could they come up with a solution just like that? Today, Chen Guang returned to school to take his final exam. He didn't want to participate at first, but he accidentally blurted it out in front of his mother, so he was forced to go back. He didn't expect to come back today. He didn't have time to study for this class, and he skipped a lot of classes. He didn't even finish half of the papers before they were collected. It seemed that he couldn't escape the fate of failing the exam this time. Chen Guang rested his chin on his hand and turned to look at Lin Jingwei and the others, who were checking their answers. He didn't want to talk to them at all. When he came back last night, these three grandsons had already lined up the names of the restaurants he was going to treat them to, from the east to the west, from now until graduation. It was as if they wouldn't stop until the rich were poor. The dormitory even gave Chen Guang a nickname in private, the man who made 200 million in one night. No matter how he heard it, it didn't sound right. The surgery was tomorrow morning, so he didn't plan to go back to the dormitory tonight. He wanted to stay in a hotel outside the hospital. Just as he was about to get up and leave the classroom, Lin Jingwei and the others suddenly came up to him. The only people who knew that Chen Guang's mother was going to have surgery tomorrow were the three grandsons, Sun Xiaoxuan and Gaoya. They were all here. Everyone knew that Chen Guang was a little absent-minded at this time, so they didn't say much and just gave their blessings. Chen Guang only said thank you for everyone's blessings. He didn't say anything else and prepared to go to the parking lot. The more critical the last moment, the more his heart couldn't calm down. The blessings from others could at most comfort him mentally. Chen Guang didn't even have the mood to let Lin Jingwei and the others accompany him. Lin Jingwei and the others wanted to follow, but Chen Guang refused. There was no need for that. Not many people in the hospital could condense telekinesis to protect the surgery and make it go smoothly. Everything should be left to the illusory fate. Since he had touched the bell of fate for his mother's illness, everything would go smoothly in the end, right? As he walked downstairs, Chen Guang comforted himself in his heart. Chen Guang, wait. Suddenly, Sun Xiaoxuan's voice came from behind him. Chen Guang turned around and saw her running down the stairs alone. Before Chen Guang could say anything, Sun Xiaoxuan grabbed his hand and pulled him forward. I heard from Lin Jingwei that you plan to stay outside the hospital tonight? Chen Guang nodded. The surgery is at 9 a.m. tomorrow, so I might have to get up at 6 or 7 a.m. to work. I'm afraid I won't be able to get there in time if I go from school. Although I don't know if I can help, I want to go with you, okay? Although she sounded like she was asking for his permission, Sun Xiaoxuan was actually squeezing her hand tightly. The conversation she had with Gaoye 2 nights ago had given her a lot of courage. Today, she finally put it into practice. Chen Guang didn't understand what Sun Xiaoxuan meant. I'm the class monitor of the environmental sciences. I have the responsibility and obligation to care about the physical and mental health of my classmates. I can't let you handle such a big thing alone. You have to learn how to find someone to share your burden. Sun Xiaoxuan suddenly shouted at the top of her lungs in the stairwell. Passers-by looked at her with puzzled eyes, which made her blush. However, she stared at Chen Guang without blinking. Okay. In the end, Chen Guang gave in to her persistence and agreed to go to the hospital with her. He was indeed convinced by her identity as the class monitor. Sun Xiaoxuan did help a lot. The preparation before the surgery was more complicated than expected. Chen Guang and Chen Guoli were both busy in the hospital. Sun Xiaoxuan took the initiative to help buy food and help Feng Rong with towels. These were simple but tedious tasks. When Chen Guang and Chen Guoli were too busy, she could sit by Feng Rong's bed and take care of her at all times. Feng Rong's mental state wasn't very good because she had used the immune suppressant in advance. She was already in a daze and was about to fall asleep. When she opened her eyes, she vaguely saw a rather obedient girl sitting in front of her. She asked weakly, "Is this little Guang's girlfriend?" Sun Xiaoxuan, who was sitting by the bed, blushed and said in a voice even lower than Feng Rong's, "Yes." When she finished, she turned to look at Feng Rong, but she was already asleep. Sun Xiaoxuan playfully stuck out her tongue. She didn't know if Auntie Feng heard her. She felt a little sweet and a little nervous. Chapter 274. When they finally finished, it was already 11 o'clock at night. The treatment group's work wasn't finished yet, but it was no longer something that Chen Guang could meddle in. Although Chen Guang didn't want to leave, Chen Guoli still pushed Chen Guang and Sun Xiaoxuan out. Young people are still growing, so I don't need your help here. Go and rest early. Chen Guang, you have to get up early tomorrow morning. Chen Guoli said as he pushed them away. Looking at his dad's weird expression, Chen Guang knew that he had something to hide. But Chen Guoli didn't give him a chance to defend himself. He quickly closed the door of the ward, leaving the two of them in the empty hospital corridor. Chen Guang awkwardly glanced at Sun Xiaoxuan. Just when he wanted to apologize, he saw the girl lowering her head with her face blushing. She was looking at the floor with a bashful expression. Hey! It's not as simple as you think. I lied to my dad. I was Jiang Ye's mistress. Now that he has this kind of misunderstanding, doesn't it mean that I haven't eaten a single piece of meat, and in my dad's heart, I've become a two-timer? What the F***ck? What kind of injustice is this? Besides, Dad, don't you feel ashamed? You raised a son like Chen Shimi, don't you feel ashamed? You just pushed me out in such a hurry. Chen Guang felt that his whole body was about to collapse. He walked out of the hospital with Sun Xiaoxuan. Not long after, his phone rang. He picked it up and saw that it was from his dad. Based on the principle of prevention, Chen Guang quietly turned his phone away when he read the message, so that Sun Xiaoxuan wouldn't see it. This little girl is not bad. She's living a good life. Cherish her. You can make your own judgment on your own. But in my humble opinion, although a glamorous life is good, it's not as good as a simple life of cooking. A person's life is long. Finding someone suitable for living a stable life is a long-term solution. It was obvious that Sun Xiaoxuan's appearance today, her wholeheartedly helping out, and her gentle appearance of the daughter of a Jiangnan River village had easily captured Qinguoli's heart of fairness. However, in Qinguoli's heart, Qinguang had indeed received a lot of benefits from Jiang Yage, so he couldn't say anything too harsh. He simply expressed his stance and hoped that Qinguang could handle the relationship on his own. He subtly pointed out that perhaps the celebrity was just playing with him. Qinguang was really confused, but he couldn't explain it. "What's wrong with you?" Sun Xiaoxuan asked in a low voice. Under the cover of the night, her face was also very red. If they were just classmates, why would a girl accompany another boy to take care of his sick mother in the hospital in the middle of the night? From the moment she decided to come here, Sun Xiaoxuan had already made up her mind to purposely leave such a misunderstanding for Qinguang's parents. Although she was always timid like a little girl in front of Qinguang, as the class monitor for more than 3 years, she handled the class affairs in an orderly manner. She was very scheming. It's nothing. It's getting late, and I forgot to book a room at the hotel. The hotels near the hospital are very popular, so I don't want to run out of places to stay." About half an hour later, Qinguang couldn't help but want to sew up his mouth. The two of them went to 7 or 8 seemingly good hotels near the hospital one after another, and all of them were unexpectedly full. However, some small hotels in the alleys were very enthusiastic and came up to them, saying that they still had vacant rooms. However, when Qinguang and Sun Xiaoxuan saw the moral character of these small hotels and the gloomy atmosphere in the alleys, they were somewhat deterred. The two of them mustered up their courage and barged into one of the hotels. The heavily made-up proprietress enthusiastically pulled the two of them up to the second floor. The proprietress pushed Qinguang up with her overly large breasts, while Qinguang strenuously protected Sun Xiaoxuan. The stairs to the second floor were so narrow that it seemed like a mouse had built it. "I'm not bragging, but my Red Apricot Hotel is the thumbs up in this entire street." As the proprietress spoke, she forcefully lifted the wooden door with her hands. Finally, the key didn't break in the lock. A pile of cement or ash fell out of the door frame. The proprietress thought it was a facial mask and wiped it on her face with a smile. Less than 10 seconds after entering the door, Qinguang was shaken back by the thick sour smell of the small hotel's bedding. He didn't care, but how could he let a delicate little girl like Sun Xiaoxuan stay in a place like this? Besides, Qinguang planned to get 2 rooms so that he could sleep peacefully until tomorrow morning. But Sun Xiaoxuan couldn't. This place wasn't safe. Just by looking at the thin wooden door and the most old-fashioned oval lock, this place was uninhabitable. "Hey! Don't go. We've already opened the door for you. You can't go." The two of them fled in panic under the pursuit of the proprietress. It wasn't easy for them to escape from the claws of the proprietress. When they came back to their senses, they discovered that they were holding each other's hands and were gasping for breath from running. Looking at each other's battered and exhausted appearance, the two of them pointed at each other and burst into laughter. After searching for another 20 minutes, they finally found a decent-looking business hotel. However, there was a new problem. It said that there was only a standard room with 2 single beds. Then, Qinguang would have to sleep in the same room as Sun Xiaoxuan. Although Qinguang felt that this wasn't right, he had no other choice. It was almost 12:30 p.m. Sun Xiaoxuan seemed to be very sleepy due to her regular biological clock. She couldn't even keep her eyes open. Hearing that there was only 1 room, she didn't seem to care. She only said, "I'm fine. I'm sleepy. I want to sleep." Then she didn't move again. She looked like her brain had completely shut down. At first, the hotel manager didn't want to let Qinguang and Sun Xiaoxuan stay. After all, there was only 1 room and they were both young. It wasn't until Qinguang took out his UBS black gold card that the hotel manager, who knew a little bit about business, stopped pestering them about whether they were husband and wife and let them go. The UBS card was relatively rare. Although it wasn't the highest level card worth 10 billion gold, it wasn't something that ordinary people could get their hands on. Because it was directly linked to the UBS, it was even rarer than the American Express Centurion Black Card that was represented by financial institutions such as ICBC and China Merchants Bank. Chen Guang's 180 million in cash was like a huge fortune in the eyes of ordinary people. However, in front of a huge banking institution like the UBS, it was indeed not enough. The fact that he was able to get this card so easily was actually a great deal of face for Lu Fei and Uncle Cheng. Inviting the person in charge of the UBS Asia Pacific region was so smooth. Of course, if Chen Guang wasn't afraid of trouble, with his current personal assets, he could completely meet the standards of the ICBC and China Merchants Bank to apply for a Centurion card. However, the UBS card was quite useful. Now it seemed that the black card's effect was basically up to standard, so he didn't bother with it. Chen Guang and Sun Xiaoxuan followed the enthusiastic manager upstairs in the elevator. During the elevator, Sun Xiaoxuan leaned against the elevator. In just a few seconds, she actually looked like she was about to fall asleep. Chen Guang held Sun Xiaoxuan's hand to prevent her from slipping to the ground. He also felt ashamed. She had helped him run up and down, and it was quite tiring. Also, because of his own mistake, it took them until now to find the hotel. How tired was this poor little girl? Well, when they get to the room, there were 2 beds anyway. She would sleep on one, and he would sleep on the other. Soon, she would fall asleep. Maybe, there wouldn't be any problems, right? Chen Guang didn't notice that Sun Xiaoxuan quietly opened her eyes slightly. The eyes that penetrated through the gaps didn't look like she was about to fall asleep, but were clearly shining. Chapter 275. F***CK. Manager, are you kidding me? Where's the standard room with 2 single beds? Why is there a double bed here? As soon as he inserted the room card, the lights in the room turned on. Chen Guang was dumbfounded. The manager, who was about to go downstairs, was called back by Chen Guang. Chen Guang pointed at the big bed in the room and felt terrible. At this time, Sun Xiaoxuan had already staggered into the bathroom. It seemed that she was getting ready to wash up. The manager was also a little confused. He scratched his head. Mr. Chen, I'm really sorry. I'm not usually the receptionist. The staff at the front desk are more familiar with the system. I'm a little out of practice. I must have seen wrongly, but we really only have 1 room in the hotel. How about you make do with it tonight? Chen Guang wanted to strangle Sun Xiaoxuan to death. The bed was large enough for him and Sun Xiaoxuan to sleep on 2 sides, but Chen Guang wanted to strangle Sun Xiaoxuan to death. However, 1 bed and 2 beds were completely different. If he had known that the standard room was a double bed, he would never have come up like this. The manager smiled apologetically. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. On the other side, Sun Xiaoxuan didn't seem to notice what Chen Guang and the manager were talking about. She had already closed the bathroom door in a daze. From the sound, it seemed that she had turned on the water heater and was ready to take a shower. Chen Guang felt a headache coming on. He looked at the manager helplessly. He really couldn't blame him. In fact, the manager had already helped him a lot today. Strictly speaking, he and Sun Xiaoxuan weren't husband and wife, so the manager could have refused to stay. He heard that the hotel industry had recently been very strict in some aspects. From time to time, there would be a sweep. The manager had taken a risk by letting people in. Forget it. That's it. Sorry to trouble you, manager. Chen Guang shook his head helplessly and let the manager go. After locking the door, Chen Guang sat on the big bed with a pained expression. In the bathroom, Sun Xiaoxuan desperately splashed cold water on her face. Half of her drowsy look was fake, and the other half was real. She usually slept at 10:30 a.m., but she was still awake today because of this special situation. Before this, she didn't expect that she would stay in the same room as Chen Guang. She was caught off guard and hadn't completely recovered from the moment she went upstairs from the lobby of the hotel. Her mind was in a mess. She seemed to be expecting something, but also afraid of something. She was completely confused, so she simply pretended to be sleepy and didn't care about anything else. She didn't want to embarrass herself and didn't want Chen Guang to ask her for advice. She was worried that if Chen Guang really asked her what she should do, would she agree immediately? Or should he reluctantly refuse? If I agreed immediately, would he think that I was being too casual? If she rejected him, wouldn't it seem like she didn't trust him? What a headache. So I'll pretend to be asleep. It wasn't until he locked himself in the bathroom and washed his face with cold water to refresh himself that Sun Xiaoxuan could finally think about this matter a little more clearly. There was a voice in his head that sounded like a little devil. Sun Xiaoxuan, this is the best opportunity you've been waiting for. With Chen Guang's personality, if you really gave your body to him today, he wouldn't be a heartless man. But another angel-like voice said, Sun Xiaoxuan, you can't do this. You haven't even fallen in love with him yet, how can you do such a crazy thing? This is irresponsible to yourself, and it is also irresponsible to Chen Guang. The devil spoke again, as long as there is true love, how can there be such a thing as irresponsibility? Does every first love in this world hold hands and walk to the end? Isn't being crazy about love something that young people like you should do the most? Don't worry about the future. God knows what the future will be like. Just hold on to the present tightly. If you don't hold the present tightly, how can you win the future? There are so many competitors, how can you compete with them? The angel-like voice retorted, if you hold the present tightly, you will lose the future. Chen Guang had just made a fortune, and you took the initiative to throw yourself into his arms. What will he think of you? He will think of you as a woman who doesn't have any self-respect for money. Even if this is your first time. Once this image is formed in his mind, you will never be able to get his true love in this life. You can only progress step by step. She fiercely splashed cold water on her face again. The cold water droplets slid down her delicate cheeks. Sun Xiaoxuan shook her head fiercely and gradually became clear-headed. She was frightened by the words of the angel in her heart. She wasn't afraid of anything, but she was afraid that Chen Guang would misunderstand her. The halo formed by the 200 million cash on Chen Guang's body was too dazzling. As a girl from an ordinary family, it was impossible for her to turn a blind eye to it. The more she didn't care about money, the more she couldn't ignore the potential damage that money could cause to a relationship. Thinking of this, her unusually excited and uncontrollable mood gradually calmed down. She took off her clothes and planned to take a shower first before thinking about it. Even if she couldn't make up her mind, she couldn't stay in the bathroom until tomorrow morning, right? She applied the shower gel on her body and rubbed it in front of the mirror. Looking at her relatively petite but curvaceous figure in the mirror, Sun Xiaoxuan suddenly froze. Wait, I seem to have made a mistake. It seems like this kind of thing shouldn't be something that a girl like me should think about. I'm a girl sleeping in the same bed with him. If he really wants to do something, then wouldn't it just happen? Of course, with Chen Guang's personality, especially with Andy Feng's big surgery tomorrow, Chen Guang most likely wouldn't have that kind of thought. The probability of that happening was less than 1%, but it was at least 1%. In other words, even if nothing happened, even if I just lay in the same bed with him for a whole night, it would still mean that our relationship had improved by leaps and bounds. I don't need to think about anything or hesitate at all. I'll just take a shower and lie on the bed naturally. Although I don't have a hot body like that sister in the leather jacket, and maybe I'm not as charming as Wenwen, I'm not bad, right? Sun Xiaoxuan clenched his fists tightly as he looked at his exquisite face in the mirror, as well as his slim waist that made Jia envious. He was also holding up his chest, which was unique to young girls. I can't feel inferior, I'm really very charming. All I have to do is to act as natural as possible later. Sun Xiaoxuan took a shower and used the hairdryer to dry her hair. 20 minutes had passed, and it was almost 1:00 in the morning. She thought about it, and in the end, she didn't wear the bathrobe provided by the hotel. Instead, she put on her pants and only wore a thin t-shirt. She then wrapped her white bra in her jacket and walked out of the bathroom with her neck shrunk. Chapter 276. Sun Xiaoxuan turned his head and saw Chen Guang sitting on the double bed with a dull look on his face. Sun Xiaoxuan didn't know whether he was disappointed or secretly laughing. I knew this guy would scare me silly. In other words, if Chen Guang was a perverted beast like Pan Jiang instead of him being like this, I wouldn't have fallen in love with him at all, would I? I'll leave it to God. Taking a deep breath, Sun Xiaoxuan forced a seemingly natural smile on his face. Don't let your imagination run wild. There's only one room in the hotel, and it can't be helped. If you keep looking around like this, you won't be able to sleep until tomorrow morning. Besides, I didn't say anything. You're a boy, so why are you embarrassed? Chen Guang raised his head and was indeed embarrassed. I didn't expect it to be a double bed. It's all my fault that I didn't think of using my phone to book a room earlier. If it were another time, he would have to share a room with another girl and even sleep on the same bed. It would be strange if he didn't get excited. But at this moment, a small part of his mind was troubled by the current situation, and the other part was thinking about the scene of his mother being pushed into the operating room the next morning. He didn't have the mood to think about those trivial thoughts at this time. He was even sure that it would be a sleepless night for Sun Xiaoxuan, regardless of whether he could sleep or not. Chen Guang didn't expect to fall asleep at all. At most, he would just lie on the bed and rest for a few hours. Kidney transplant surgery usually took 4 hours. At 1:00 tomorrow afternoon, the success of the surgery could be determined. At this point, Chen Guang could only choose to believe that the kidney source brought by the power of destiny from the Holy Grail was so perfect, and he could only believe that Tang Ying, the genius doctor from Moreland's Medical College, wouldn't let him down. His mind was thinking about many things, so he didn't think very fast when talking to Sun Xiaoxuan. He didn't even notice the strange tremble in Sun Xiaoxuan's voice. On the other side, Sun Xiaoxuan pretended to be calm. He walked to the side of the bed by the window, put his coat next to the pillow, pulled off the quilt and crawled under it. He stuck his head out. It's okay, it's okay. Isn't this bed pretty big? There are also 2 quilts. We'll cover each other. You can't sleep in the middle of the night and snatch my quilt, right? You don't have the habit of snatching blankets, do you? Chen Guang shook his head. No. Sun Xiaoxuan smiled mischievously. That's good. I'm relieved. Then she hid under the quilt, took off her trousers, and threw them beside the pillow. Chen Guang, following Sun Xiaoxuan's movement, her originally bundled coat was knocked loose, revealing her white bra inside. Chen Guang was staring blankly at her as she took off her pants. When he saw her bra, he was even more dumbfounded. You. Chen Guang couldn't hold it in any longer. Sun Xiaoxuan, on the other hand, stuck his head out of the cup with a red face and glared at him. Pervert. Chen Guang continued, hurry up and take a shower and go to sleep. I've set the alarm clock. I have to wake up at 6 tomorrow morning. I can only sleep for 5 hours. I'll wrap myself up in the quilt. I won't let you take advantage of me. Then, she pushed her clothes under the pillow, and with a shy look, she really rolled left and right in the quilt, turning herself into a silkworm chrysalis. When Chen Guang went to the bathroom to take a shower with a bitter smile, Sun Xiaoxuan stared at the ceiling with a red face. She suddenly realized that she seemed to have overdone it. Originally, she wanted to give him a chance to accidentally crawl under her quilt. Now that she was wrapped up like a silkworm cocoon, how could he still have a chance? What should I do now? Should I shake the cup open on purpose? But will this make him think that I'm deliberately seducing him? I'm only wearing my underwear now. He'll take advantage of me in an instant. So painful, so conflicted. Roughly 10 minutes later, Chen Guang didn't even wash his hair since Chen Guang was much faster in washing himself. He also learned from Sun Xiaoxuan. He first put on his clothes and lay down on the other bed. He turned his head and saw Sun Xiaoxuan next to him looking at him with a red face and a nervous expression. Chen Guang's worry about the operation finally relaxed a little. He also threw out his pants from under the quilt, took off his clothes, and pretended to cover his shoulders with his hands. Pervert. Don't look. Pfft. Sun Xiaoxuan laughed foolishly. I won't look at you. There's nothing to look at. I've already seen you when you were swimming. Okay, go to sleep. You were almost asleep just now. Why are you awake now? After joking with Sun Xiaoxuan, Chen Guang reminded her to go to sleep. After all, girls were not like men. Staying up late had a greater impact on their bodies. Chen Guang turned off the light but didn't close the window. The bright moonlight outside shone through the window, so the room wasn't very dark. Chen Guang lay on the bed and couldn't close his eyes. He stared blankly at the shadow of the chandelier on the ceiling, as if he could see the shadow moving with the moon. The night was as cold as water, and his mind was empty. After waiting for about 10 minutes, he suddenly heard Sun Xiaoxuan's voice. Why aren't you sleeping yet? The voice was close at hand. Chen Guang turned his head and found that Sun Xiaoxuan, who had transformed into a silkworm cocoon, was leaning sideways. Her head was less than a foot away from him, and she was staring at him with a pair of big eyes. Under the moonlight, Sun Xiaoxuan's eyes, which were bigger than ordinary people's, were particularly bright. I can't sleep. Why? I'm scared. I've never been so scared before. Auntie will be fine. You've worked so hard. If God really has feelings, he will also be moved by you. Sun Xiaoxuan's voice sounded very gentle. At this moment, all the thoughts she had just had already disappeared. She had never seen Chen Guang in such a weak state, until today. Chen Guang nodded heavily. Yes. It will be fine. If God really dares to treat me like this, I will tear down the sky when I become an immortal in the future. Sun Xiaoxuan thought he was joking. I will tear it down with you. Hey, if you want to tear it down with me, you have to sleep well first and take care of your body. You're going to have dark circles under your eyes. Ah. That won't look good. No. Mr. Class Rep still looks good with smoky makeup. Chen Guang grinned. After chatting with Sun Xiaoxuan for a while, he felt a lot better. At this time, there was a sudden noise coming from the corridor outside. It seemed that a lot of people had suddenly come. Chen Guang knitted his brows. He couldn't be that unlucky, right? This situation often happens on TV. Motherf **Ker, don't joke around. I'm in a bad mood right now. What he feared had come true. After a while, there was a sudden knocking on the door. It was very urgent and angry. Open the door. Crack down on prostitution. Chapter 277. Sun Xiaoxuan, who was sleeping on the other side, was so scared that her face turned pale. Chen Guang reacted quickly and jumped up. While putting on his clothes and pants under the moonlight, he turned his head and said to Sun Xiaoxuan, "Put on your coat and pants." Damn it. Today's matter might be more troublesome. After all, he and Sun Xiaoxuan were not husband and wife. They didn't have a marriage certificate. If they encountered unreasonable law enforcement officers, they might not be able to reason with them. Of course, strictly speaking, it didn't seem very reasonable. The knocking on the door became more urgent. The manager outside seemed to be trying to explain, but it was useless. Sun Xiaoxuan also rushed out of the bed in a panic. She didn't care that her pair of white legs were seen by Chen Guang with the moonlight. She quickly sat on the bed and put on her pants and coat. However, she didn't have time to put on her bra. After thinking for a while, she put her bra under the pillow. Chen Guang looked at Sun Xiaoxuan. When she was almost dressed, he said, "Don't be nervous. We are not afraid of the slanderous. I will deal with it. You sit here and don't move. Don't be afraid." Sun Xiaoxuan nodded heavily. At this time, she also calmed down a little. She thought to herself, no matter what, I can't be a prostitute. If they are angry, they can go to the hospital next door for a checkup. I am a real virgin. No matter what, they couldn't sweep the head of a virgin, right? Qin Guang stood in front of the door and took a deep breath. If it was a blessing, it wouldn't be a disaster. If it was a disaster, it couldn't be avoided. Don't worry so much. I will deal with it when it comes. After unlocking the door, Qin Guang didn't even have the time to open it himself. The lock was twisted from the outside, and the door was pushed open. 3 uniformed policemen stood at the door with stern expressions. Beside them was the manager who had an anxious look on his face. Qin Guang calmly stuck his head out and quickly looked outside. The commotion this time seemed to be quite big. There were policemen everywhere in the corridor. There were more than 10 of them, and they were knocking on the door everywhere. The room directly opposite seemed to have been swept to completion. The door was open, and a man wearing only briefs was squatting on the ground with his hands around his head. A seductive woman wrapped in a bath towel squatted beside him, completely ignoring the fact that the towel was about to fall to the ground and her chest was exposed. What are you looking at? Hands over head. Squat down. I really thought it was some big shot, but it turned out to be just a little brat. He didn't learn good things at such a young age, and he only knew how to do lowly things. You're actually playing the adult game of buying sex. The young policeman in front of Qin Guang suddenly said. The manager on the side helplessly turned his head to the other side because his obstruction just now seemed to have backfired. Alas, if I had known that this was such a big deal, I wouldn't have tried to cover up for the young couple in this room. Now, it was obvious that the young couple were not that kind of people, but it had set the mind of the anti-pornography police in advance. Qin Guang turned his face and looked at the policeman in front of him, who seemed to be about the same age as him, and then looked at his badge number. It had letters, so he was an assistant policeman. This kind of person might be even more difficult to deal with than the official police, especially because the manager's help had aroused the other party's jealousy. In addition, the opposite room had been swept to completion, so he was even more certain that he couldn't escape, so his attitude was very bad. If he remembered correctly, last year there was a famous person with the surname Shui, and he was also a well-known entrepreneur. Didn't he get swept to completion? But Qin Guang didn't intend to do as he said. Squatting down with his hands around his head was something that only people who had a guilty conscience would do. He was upright and had a clear conscience, so why would he do this kind of thing? Wouldn't that be tacitly admitting that he was the target of the anti-pornography police? What about Sun Xiaoxuan's dignity as a girl? So, Qin Guang decided to block the door and not move. Squatting down with your hands around your head is something that only criminals do. I'm sorry, but I'm not a criminal. Oh. You really have a background? You're so arrogant. You think I can't deal with you? The young assistant policeman's face was stiff. Still stubborn? As he spoke, he took a step forward and made a sign that he was going to make a move. Qin Guang didn't panic at all. You have to deal with the real criminals, not me. Besides, I don't have any background. I'm just a family member of an ordinary patient in the opposite Wujing City Hospital. You guys can do whatever you want, it has nothing to do with me. Lies. Keep lying. Get out of the way. We want to go in and check. Qin Guang didn't budge an inch. Get out of the way. On the other side, the hotel manager saw that a fight was about to break out, so he quickly came over to mediate. Mr. Chen, they're just doing a routine check. It's fine, it's fine. If they really fight, it'll be troublesome. Qin Guang nodded slightly. He felt that the manager was right. He turned around and walked inside. He couldn't let Sun Xiaoxuan be humiliated like the real prostitute in front of him. He felt more at ease standing next to Sun Xiaoxuan. The 3 assistant policemen entered in a line. The one in front saw Sun Xiaoxuan and became smug. You're still denying it? You're still quibbling? This isn't a... Shut up. Are you F asterisk king blind? Which eye of yours thinks that I look like a prostitute? Which eye of yours thinks that my girlfriend looks like that? I'm warning you. Watch your mouth. Chen Guang had a lot on his mind recently. This assistant policeman was getting more and more impolite. It was like touching his reverse scale, so he immediately started scolding. The young assistant policeman was rained on, and he couldn't react for a moment. Instead, the other man next to him stood up with an ugly expression. ID. I don't care what your relationship is. Take out your ID first. On the other side, Sun Xiaoxuan saw that Chen Guang seemed to want to confront these people. She became anxious and grabbed Chen Guang's hand. Chen Guang, take out your ID. Chen Guang took a few deep breaths to control his emotions. He was too lazy to look at the faces of these young assistant policemen, so he just handed his ID to Sun Xiaoxuan. At the same time, Sun Xiaoxuan took out her ID and handed it over. At the same time, she also took out her student ID. Officers, my boyfriend and I are students at Gokyo University. My boyfriend's mother is being treated in the hospital across the street. We are really the family of the patient across the street. We're not that kind of people. At this time, Sun Xiaoxuan also followed Chen Guang's words and said that she was his girlfriend. A young man and a young woman lived together in a hotel. It would be a lie to say that there was no relationship. It was better to say that they were boyfriend and girlfriend. Students at Gokyo University. The officers checked Chen Guang and Sun Xiaoxuan's ID, and then glanced at Chen Guang and Sun Xiaoxuan. They were indeed a bit like students. When Chen Guang and Sun Xiaoxuan entered the university as freshmen, they changed their household registration and files. They also applied for new ID cards at that time. The address on the ID card was really the campus of Gokyo University in the city. Sun Xiaoxuan's student ID card clearly stated the university and major. Chapter 278. The manager quickly chimed in, "Not bad, Mr. Chen and his girlfriend are really students." It's not that. A couple had already been caught in the anti-pornography operation today. The manager couldn't allow Chen Guang and Sun Xiaoxuan to be caught again. First, the hotel would definitely be heavily fined, and second, they would offend the black gold card user. Unexpectedly, the man who had been given the cold shoulder by Chen Guang suddenly flipped out. He rushed forward and lifted the blanket to look for evidence while saying, "Just because you say you're a student, that's it? Who knows if your student ID is a fake one from Nine Caves Bridge? Besides, aren't there really students selling their IDs?" Before he finished speaking, he pulled the pillow again, and Sun Xiaoxuan's bra was underneath it. Slap. Chen Guang slapped his grandson's face and pressed one hand on the pillow. He looked at him coldly. "Your mother is the one selling herself. Looking for a beating? Does it feel good? Is there a point? Are you asking for a beating?" He was really angry. He couldn't let this be *tch pull out Sun Xiaoxuan's bra and expose it in public. Sun Xiaoxuan saw Chen Guang's actions and immediately understood what he was thinking. He was extremely touched, but also worried. Finally, he made a move. At this moment, Chen Guang was like an enraged lion, just like when he beat up Pan Jiang. F***ck. How dare you hit me? Assaulting a police officer? The man who had his ears ringing from Chen Guang's slap took a while to regain his senses. His two colleagues were already dumbfounded. Strictly speaking, they had already restrained themselves today. After all, even if they found out that there was nothing wrong with the other party during the anti-pornography operation, the other party would still be polite. Entering a door with a bad attitude was also a way to solve a case. The stronger they appeared, the easier it was for the criminal to break down and give themselves away, leaving the real client with no place to hide. Apart from that, even if it was a real couple, not many people would bring their marriage certificate when they went out. However, the more they asked, the clearer the investigation would be. Unfortunately, the same method might work on other people, but it was like igniting a barrel of dynamite when it came to Chen Guang. Of course, the police officer who was hit shouldn't have said that a student was also selling himself. He even tried to pull the pillow, but Sun Xiaoxuan's bra was underneath it. This completely infuriated Chen Guang. Chen Guang had been restraining his temper ever since these people entered the door. Others thought he was very arrogant, but he still couldn't control himself. In the end, he still couldn't control himself. When the policeman who was beaten reacted to the situation, he immediately flew into a rage. If it was said that he was afraid of Chen Guang's background earlier, now that he's a student, it also proved that Chen Guang didn't have any backing even if he wasn't a criminal. Thus, he couldn't allow his face to be swept away. He jumped up and stepped on the mattress, intending to kick Chen Guang to the ground. However, Chen Guang stretched out his right hand and grabbed the man's pants in midair. His left hand reached out from the other side and caught the man's calf. He exerted force with both hands and forcefully stopped the man's forward momentum in midair. Then, he pressed down with both hands, causing the man's waist to hit the edge of the mattress. He was lucky that this was a mattress. If it had been a hard object, his waist might have been broken. However, it was still not easy. He held his waist and cried out. The other two saw that things were getting out of hand, so they didn't dare to follow up. Instead, they quickly helped their colleague back to the door. Things had escalated to this point, and there was an official police officer leading the team today. It was better to let the captains solve the problem. Temporary workers like them were also troublesome. If they fought, they wouldn't be able to get anything out of it, and most importantly, their chances of winning weren't high. Chen Guang's simple move stunned them. The three of them retreated to the door of the corridor and shouted, "Captain! There's an arrest! Assaulting a police officer!" Sun Xiaoxuan suddenly pulled Chen Guang. "Chen Guang, calm down. Your mom is going to have surgery tomorrow. Let's talk things out with them." Chen Guang shook his head fiercely. "No. Damn it, these bastards are too much. We're innocent. Why are they framing us?" He was an old virgin, yet he was treated as a client. He couldn't tolerate it. "Oh yeah, there's something else." Chen Guang leaned over and lifted the pillow. He grabbed Sun Xiaoxuan's bra and quickly stuffed it into Sun Xiaoxuan's hands. A girl's private things shouldn't be seen by others. I was worried about this just now. Quickly hide it in your sleeves. Huh? Sun Xiaoxuan's pale face suddenly turned as red as an apple. He was dumbfounded. "Not only did you see it, but you're also holding it in your hands." His fingers seemed to be on the soft cloth inside my bra. Chen Guang didn't realize what was wrong. Sun Xiaoxuan didn't take it, so he became anxious. There was a commotion at the door. It seemed like they called the captain. Without waiting for Sun Xiaoxuan to react, Chen Guang quickly stuffed the white bra into his sleeves and said proudly, "Now no one will see it." "Indeed no one will see it. Because you took it." "Chen Guang, what should we do?" Sun Xiaoxuan was too embarrassed to come back now, so he had to change the topic. Chen Guang snorted. "What do you mean, what should we do? We're not afraid of making a big deal out of this. We're university students, not kids." Two university students were accompanying their family members in surgery outside the hospital, and they got beaten up by the police in the name of anti-pornography. Why should we be afraid of them? But a wise man knows better than to fight when the odds are against him. Sun Xiaoxuan was still afraid. Chen Guang glared at him coldly again. "What are you afraid of? I don't believe they'll pull out a gun. But if we fight, I can take them down even if all of them work together. Whoever dares to jump in front of me, I'll beat him to death. Let's fight first and talk later." Chen Guang had the intention to kill anyone who stood in his way. He had already made up his mind that if he really made a big deal out of this, he would go to his god-sister, Wu Tong, for help. He didn't believe that the second generation of a government official couldn't handle this. Besides, he and Sun Xiaoshuan didn't break the law. At this time, the voices outside finally became clearer. What are you doing? Why do you have to check when the other person has brought out his student ID? Are you crazy? Are you looking for trouble? A sharp woman's voice came from the door. It seemed to be their captain lecturing the 3 police officers. But he assaulted the police. The woman's voice continued, that's a different matter. Another student's relationship doesn't fall under the scope of anti-pornography. Are you trying to use a chicken feather as a token of authority? Are you trying to make my job more difficult? If it's an overlapping law enforcement, then do it properly. Are you trying to embarrass the Wenxing branch on purpose? We didn't offend you, right? When Qin Guang heard the woman's voice, his anger instantly went to 0. Washing the motor. Overlapping law enforcement? Wenxing branch? Wu Tong. This is Wu Tong's F*King voice. I can recognize it even if I turn into dust. The flood has broken the temple of the Dragon King. Chapter 279. Old Master Guang, who had been so arrogant just a moment ago, was starting to panic. I used you as my savior and shield, preparing to slap your face and show off to my heart's content, but in the end, you turned out to be the boss of the big villain. How embarrassing. What do you want this old man to do? He didn't know why, but when his god-sister saw the scene of him and Sun Xiaoshuan getting a room together, his heart suddenly became restless. Forget it, forget it. I heard that he's an expert. It's not a bad idea for me to go and meet him. I haven't had the time to properly practice recently. Wu Tong, who was outside, was also in high spirits. She rubbed her palms together and prepared to go all out. She had to teach her own people a lesson, but she also had to win back her face. Then, she turned a corner and walked in aggressively. Immediately after, she and Qin Guang stared at each other, both dumbfounded. Wu Tong couldn't wrap her head around it. Why did she run into this guy in a place like this? She turned her head to look at the situation in the room and saw Sun Xiaoshuan wrapped tightly in her coat, standing timidly in the corner of the room. Qin Guang was standing in front of her like an eagle protecting a chick. There seemed to be no need to explain what was going on. Combined with what the assistant police had said, Wu Tong could roughly guess that Qin Guang and his classmate had gotten a room together and were caught red-handed by the city's sudden raid today. Didn't he injure Pan Jiang because of this girl called Sun Xiaoshuan? With the nature of these assistant police officers, especially today's group operation, they would definitely be even more arrogant. Wu Tong naturally understood this. She also knew that Qin Guang had a bad temper and couldn't tolerate the slightest grievance. Back then, he had seriously injured his classmate because of a disagreement. So, a commotion was inevitable. Wu Tong was able to analyze everything clearly. But an inexplicable anger surged from the bottom of her heart. She felt that there was no reason for it, but she just couldn't stop it. Qin Guang had saved this girl like a hero, so it was natural for the girl to return the favor by marrying him. But why was it that when she saw this scene, she was so angry that she wanted to rush up and beat him up? When Qin Guang first saw Wu Tong, he felt a little awkward, but he soon calmed down. From what she had said before she came in, it seemed that today was really a big operation that involved the whole city. She, a police officer from the Wenxing branch, had been transferred here to carry out the mission. In any case, since Wu Tong was the leader of the team, today's matter should be considered settled. Although it was a little troublesome, it was good to resolve the matter satisfactorily. Just as Qin Guang was thinking about this, he suddenly saw a strange emotion in Wu Tong's eyes. What is this? Very angry? Are you F*King kidding me? Aren't you my good sister? Why do you have such an expression? Qin Guang didn't understand, and Wu Tong didn't understand either, but she couldn't restrain the anger in her heart. I clearly recognized him as my younger brother. Even if I was obsessed with him that day, I would always think about him in my heart from time to time. But I have clearly transformed this emotion into the feeling between siblings. What the hell am I angry about? Wu Tong didn't dare to speak. She was afraid that what she said would become a question between lovers. Chen Guang was also waiting for Wu Tong to express her opinion. Because of the inexplicable silence of these two people, the atmosphere in the room suddenly became strangely heavy. What happened to Captain Wu? I heard that there was a situation here. Just then, Wang Long appeared from outside the room again, shouting at the top of his lungs. Poor Wang Long originally, he was the old police officer who guided Wu Tong. It had only been a few months, but Wu Tong's position had flown over his head and became the captain of the team. The duo still hadn't changed, but Wang Long had bitterly changed from a senior to a younger brother. He even changed his address to Captain Wu. This was the biggest difference between a second generation and a poor civil servant. Of course, no one could deny that Wu Tong really dared to fight, and her professional ability was strong. The branch bureau promoted her to captain because she easily won the freestyle championship in the police system division competition last month, so it was justifiable. Then, Wang Long saw Wu Tong and Chen Guang looking at each other in the room, and then he saw Sun Xiaoxuan standing behind Chen Guang like a wronged daughter-in-law. Wang Long sucked in a cold breath and broke out in a cold sweat. He shrunk his neck and wanted to slip back. Something big happened. The anti-pornography campaign caught the adulterer in bed. F***CK. The female police Tyrannosaurus in the anti-pornography campaign caught the adulterer. Once the situation got out of control and this tragic fact was exposed, not only would there be a big incident now, but tomorrow's news would also sweep the 5 capital police system. Wang Long was so flustered that he almost couldn't stand still. He regretted coming over and asking more questions and getting involved in this matter. Yes, as early as when Wu Tong loved Chen Guang to the point of going through fire and water in the Wenxing branch, regardless of the views of the secular world, the people in the Wenxing branch were basically sure that Chen Guang, a student from Gokyo University, and their beautiful police comrade were already set in stone. Later on, Wu Tong helped Chen Guang run errands a few times to resolve the Pan family's problems. She even pulled her father from the police station to Wujing University to support her. At that time, everyone was even more certain in their hearts. When they discussed the relationship between Chen Guang and Wu Tong in private, they had already called him brother-in-law and then brother-in-law. Wang Long was no exception. Wu Tong had been furious many times because of this, but the more furious she was, the more her flushed expression when she was angry made it seem like she was hiding something. Later, she was too lazy to deny it. Perhaps she secretly thought that it was good for them to misunderstand her. Anyway, she wouldn't lose a piece of flesh. After saying so much, it was not difficult to understand the panic in Wang Long's heart. Finally, the assistant policeman who had been knocked down by Chen Guang in 2 moves broke the silence. He rubbed his waist with one hand and moved in front of Chen Guang. He pointed at Chen Guang's nose and roared fiercely, "Boy, you bought sex and violently arrested me. Assaulting a police officer. Obstructing official business. Come with us." As he spoke, he reached for Chen Guang's wrist and wanted to grab him first. Although he knew that this boy was difficult to handle, the assistant policeman also knew that the person behind him was the recently popular freestyle champion of the police world. He was not someone to be trifled with, so he regained his courage. Bought sex? Chen Guang's pupils shrank, especially when he felt Sun Xiaoxuan's hand pinching the back of his clothes. He was so angry that he subconsciously pulled it, which made Chen Guang's anger that he had just suppressed ignite again. He waved his hand violently and slapped Sun Xiaoxuan's face again. Sun Xiaoxuan covered his face and stepped back. This time, Chen Guang's slap was more solid, and his face was swollen. You hit me? You're a man, can you not talk like a sissy? If you don't know how to talk, then talk less. Otherwise, your mouth will be used to get slapped. Chen Guang. Enough. Wu Tong finally spoke. Chapter 280. Seeing that Wu Tong didn't seem to notice him and was planning to leave quietly, Wang Long, who had already walked back to the door, shivered. This is bad. The female T-Rex is going to flip out. It wasn't easy for her to endure until now. It's so hard for me. God, please teach me, what should I do now? I, Wang Long, have handled so many cases and faced so many vicious criminals. I've never been afraid. But I've never encountered this kind of situation. One wrong step and I'll be smashed to pieces. The 3 assistant police officers who led the way were even more embarrassed than Wang Long. From the moment Wu Tong entered until now, they hadn't said Chen Guang's name at all. The man and woman's ID cards were still in their pockets. But why did Captain Wu of the Wenxing branch know the boy's name so easily? From her tone, she seemed to be very familiar with the boy. Captain Wu's background was already explained to them by the branch chief before today's operation. His background was very powerful. Sis, you saw it. They went too far. I'll accept whatever they said, but I can't stand it when they said that about Sun Xiaoxuan. Chen Guang spread his hands and said. Wang Long and the 3 assistant police officers almost fainted, but they all had different thoughts. Wang Long thought, it's over. This brother-in-law is too bold. He was caught red-handed, but he still put on an appearance of protecting the mistress and not allowing her to suffer any grievances. This is bad. Also, do they address each other like this? Sis. That's right, Wu Tong is definitely older than Chen Guang. It's quite suitable. F***ck, what time is this? What am I still thinking about? The other 3 assistant police officers were even more annoyed. What did we just hear? Sis. F***ck. Who exactly did we accidentally provoke? If we want to die, no one can stop us. Captain Wu. Captain Wu. Calm down, calm down. Wang Long finally plucked up his courage and strode forward. His act of sacrificing his life for righteousness had worked, drawing everyone's attention to him. Swallowing his saliva, Wang Long suddenly stood between Chen Guang and Wu Tong. Captain Wu, don't be impulsive. The other side has already finished their investigation. It's time to take a statement. Why don't you go and take a look? There seem to be 2 more people upstairs. There's a big operation in the city today. Official business is more important. Wang Long was reminding Wu Tong. Chen Guang didn't quite understand why brother Wang Long was so nervous. He was a little surprised. Brother Wang Long, you're here too. That's right. It's good that all of you are here. Please help me explain. Why can't you sweep my head in order to crack down on prostitution? Can't we university students fall in love freely? Wang Long wanted to slap himself in the face, but in his heart, he gave Chen Guang a big thumbs up. He was the strongest adulterer in history. I submit. Then, Chen Guang didn't know that danger was coming. He smiled and put his hand on Wang Long's shoulder. He said to Wu Tong, Sister, I know I was wrong. It was wrong of me to hit your colleague in front of you. Police officers are good public servants who serve the people. I apologize to this brother. Please watch your words in the future. Okay. Then, I won't disturb your official business anymore. Wang Long was completely dumbfounded. This bastard actually asked him to leave. He followed my words and asked me to leave. Congratulations, brother-in-law Chen Guang. You're the champion of this year's death-seeking competition. On the other side, Wu Tong's breathing became more and more rapid. She was indeed angry, but she also knew that she was performing official business. It wasn't her private time. She couldn't do anything that would cause misunderstandings at this time. But no matter how much she comforted herself, Wu Tong couldn't control her anger when she saw Sun Xiaoxuan's aggrieved expression behind Chen Guang's back. At this moment, Chen Guang's nonchalant attitude was clearly telling her that she had seen him getting a room with another girl. It's fine, right? You won't mind, right? In any case, it has nothing to do with you, right? It doesn't matter. But I'm angry. I'm a woman. I don't need a reason to be angry. At this time, Sun Xiaoxuan finally plucked up the courage to poke her head out from behind Qinguang. She wanted to help, but she was too nervous. She subconsciously hugged Qinguang's arm. Officer Wu, this is really a misunderstanding. Qinguang and I are just an ordinary boyfriend and girlfriend. We're not the targets of your anti-pornography campaign. Wang Long's back was facing Qinguang. He stared at Wu Tong's expression from beginning to end to prevent her from going berserk. When Sun Xiaoxuan said this, the last string in Wang Long's heart was about to break. This was the last straw that broke the camel's back. He saw with his own eyes that Wu Tong's face suddenly flushed. It wasn't shyness, but pure adrenaline that was about to explode and hot blood rushing to the brain. The powder keg was about to explode. Qinguang also paid attention to the changes in Wu Tong's expression. He was puzzled at first, but then his mind flashed. He seemed to have understood something, and his heart skipped a beat. Even if he didn't understand women, he could still vaguely smell the gunpowder coming from Wu Tong's body. Something's wrong. It seems, maybe, probably, the after effects of Liuli's super deep hypnosis are still stubborn. My cheap sister still has feelings for me. Everything that had happened since he met Wu Tong flashed through his mind at lightning speed. Wu Tong had violated the rules to help him settle the Pan family's troubles. She had made a phone call to get her father to back him up. After that, the two of them had sat by the Mingyuan Lake at school and played around. She said she would help him investigate Fatty Wang's background. Before she left, she stepped on his foot and then ran away like a happy little sparrow. Her every frown and smile at that time suddenly flashed through Qinguang's mind in slow motion. She's really interested in me. No wonder. Otherwise, with her identity, why would she treat me so well? Why did she take the initiative to say that she wanted to recognize me as her younger brother? Just because I'm handsome? My personality is likable? They've only met a few times. Although the old man is confident that he's a good person, his personality and charisma can't be this strong. Listen to me. We're staying here for a reason. My mother, Qinguang, came forward and finally wanted to explain something. Take him away. Wang Long. Take Qinguang back to assist in the investigation. Wu Tong waved her hand fiercely and shouted. Then, she turned her face away without looking at Qinguang and added, I know that Qinguang is not a target of the anti-pornography campaign, but we can't let this go. I have to answer to my colleagues. Wang Long. Take him away. Huh? Qinguang and Wang Long were stunned. Qinguang frowned fiercely. His mother was going to have surgery tomorrow morning. How could he be taken away at this time? On the other side, Wang Long reacted quickly. He was secretly glad that Wu Tong had finally held back her temper. He only thought that if he took Qinguang away now, it would be better to solve the matter between the couple in private. Anyway, he would pay attention to them when the time came. As long as no one died, it would be fine as long as they weren't seen as a joke by outsiders from other branches. Wang Long pulled Qinguang's shoulder and whispered in his ear, Qinguang, don't talk back to Captain Wu. She's angry now. If you have something to say it in private. It's not good to make a scene in public. Chapter 281. Qinguang struggled a little, but he couldn't break free. Wang Long was really using all his strength. On the other side, Wu Tong was still looking at him with a livid face. Don't go overboard. Qinguang was a little anxious and wanted to say something. Before he could finish his sentence, Wang Longmeng covered his mouth and pushed him out. Wang Longmeng whispered into his ear, my brother. I beg you. I don't know what's going on with you two, but you're fighting at the head of the bed and reconciling at the end. Please stop it. Let's go back first. I'll go with you to the branch here, and we can discuss everything slowly. F***CK. Husband and wife? Fighting at the head of the bed and reconciling at the end? When did I become this kind of relationship with Wu Tong? Wang Long's information was enough to stun Chen Guang. Could it be that she had secretly announced that I'm her man? No wonder she's so angry. Chen Guang felt that he had grasped the key to the problem, and he felt even more pain in the ass. I'm so F***king innocent. It's none of my business. If it were another situation, he might still not give face to Wu Tong, but Wang Long was right. She was now carrying out her duties, and he didn't know what she was thinking. If they were to get into a fight in public, he wouldn't know how things would turn out. Sigh, forget it, I'll accompany her first. Later, I'll explain to her about my mother's matter, and then I'll explain to her that I slept in the same room with Sun Xiaoxuan today for no reason. With her personality, she probably won't be so unreasonable, right? Chen Guang still maintained his utmost patience and restraint with Wu Tong. On the other side, Wu Tong saw that Chen Guang had finally been escorted away by Wang Long. The anger in her mind gradually subsided. Seeing Sun Xiaoxuan's flustered and bewildered appearance, she gradually felt ashamed. She wanted to explain something to Sun Xiaoxuan, but she didn't know where to start. Even she felt that it was strange. Team Wu? Now? The assistant police officer on the side said something that was extremely inappropriate. It's all because of these three idiots that I ran into this mess. It's fine if I don't know anything. Why should I interfere with Chen Guang's private life? Wu Tong immediately vented her anger on these three people. She resisted the urge to beat them up and just punched the wall with her fist. A loud bang resounded. Have you checked all the rooms? Get lost. When the three of them ran away, scared witless, Wu Tong took a deep breath, squeezed out an awkward smile, and comforted Sun Xiaoxuan. Chen Guang assaulting a police officer is an established fact. Although I know him, I can't be biased. But don't worry, I'll just call him back to criticize and educate him. Have a good rest first. After some thought, Wu Tong added, but he won't be coming back tonight. Sun Xiaoxuan wasn't a silly fool like Chen Guang, and women understood women the best. A long time ago, when she saw Wu Tong clinging to Chen Guang like an octopus, she knew that Wu Tong was a potential competitor. Today, after witnessing Wu Tong losing control step by step, Sun Xiaoxuan was even more certain of her conjecture. She was really afraid that Chen Guang would be locked up for an entire night, and it would be terrible if Auntie Feng didn't come back tomorrow. If she fanned the flames and made Officer Wu lose control even more, she would go back to Chen Guang and continue to cause trouble. With Chen Guang's current state of mind and personality, he would definitely hate her completely. Officer Wu, Chen Guang and I don't have that kind of relationship. Today's situation is really special, although she knew that it was a good opportunity to kick her competitor out. Sun Xiaoxuan's kindness prevented her from doing such a thing. She just wanted to explain things clearly, and she regretted holding Chen Guang's arm just now. She knew that her action just now caused Wu Tong to misunderstand. Wu Tong waved her hand tiredly, and before Sun Xiaoxuan could finish speaking, she turned around and walked out. Sun Xiaoxuan, don't let your imagination run wild. I still have things to do outside, so I'll be going now. Before she finished her sentence, the door had already slammed shut. Sun Xiaoxuan hurriedly chased after her and opened the door. Although it was noisy outside, Wu Tong was nowhere to be seen. It had only been a few seconds, and she was gone. Sun Xiaoxuan stomped her feet anxiously. She wanted to chase after her, but she didn't know where she was. Her chest was empty, and her girl's shyness prevented her from stepping out of the door. In the end, she could only return to her room and lock the door again. Sun Xiaoxuan sat on the bed and sighed. How could this be? Did I cause trouble for him? Chen Guang must be annoyed to death right now. Sun Xiaoxuan fell back on the bed and stared at the ceiling in a daze, feeling extremely helpless. She crawled under the covers and gradually felt sleepy. It was almost 2 in the morning, and she really couldn't hold on any longer. She fell asleep without taking off her pants. Before she fell asleep, a vague thought popped up in her mind. My bra? Ugh. He stuffed it into his sleeve and took it away. After Wu-tong walked out of the room, she didn't immediately care about the cleaning work in the other rooms. Instead, she flashed to the fire staircase next door and slid down the corner of the wall while hugging her legs. She also looked at the cement stairs with a blank expression. After a long time, she murmured, "Is my brain stuffed with mud?" Wu-tong, what the hell are you thinking? When the cleaning finally came to an end, Wu-tong, as the captain, led the team back to the border area branch office. Wang Long had already dragged Chen Guang to the office for almost 2 hours, finished 3 packs of Drunkard's peanuts, drank 6 cans of beer, and more than 100 yuan of barbecue, and watched an international A-level friendly match together. Chen Guang didn't look like he was here to assist in the investigation. He seemed to be Wang Long's friend who was invited to watch the game. Since he was already here, Chen Guang knew that he couldn't leave without clearing things up with Wu-tong. Anyway, he couldn't sleep at night, and this place was not far from the hospital and the hotel. He simply chatted with Wang Long and watched the game peacefully. He planned to not sleep tonight. As long as he could get back in time before his mother went into the operating room tomorrow morning. Of course, when he was lying in the hotel, Sun Xiaoxuan, who was close at hand, did give him a lot of pressure. Now that he could legally slip away, and there was an acquaintance to watch the game, drink, eat peanuts, and eat barbecue with, it felt good. Thinking about it carefully, even if he was lying in the hotel bed, his mind would not be able to turn over the mountain of tomorrow's surgery. It was good to be able to chat with others, watch the game, and distract his attention. He didn't scare himself and always think about nonsense. The two men made a profound comment on the England and Italy teams, and Chen Guang told Wang Long about his appearance in the hotel. After listening to it, Wang Long was also speechless about Chen Guang's encounter, and his heart relaxed a little. This brother-in-law did not seem to be a playboy. There was indeed a reason for today's incident, and there was still a need to reconcile when Wu-tong came over. In addition, Wang Long naturally expressed his concern for Chen Guang's mother as usual. Chen Guang only sighed and believed Wang Long's words that good people were blessed by heaven. Finally, at about 3:00 in the morning, Wu-tong came back. The game had just ended, and the two sides had tied. She looked a little tired. It was the first time that she represented the Wenxing branch in such a big operation in the city. In the middle of it, Chen Guang's matter was interspersed, and her right-hand man, Wang Long, was sent away to take Chen Guang to the branch office. She was very busy. Wang Long hurriedly stood up and planned to help Chen Guang explain. He understood Chen Guang's feelings. He was worried that if Wu-tong acted too aggressively, it would make things worse. Chapter 282. Wu-tong looked at Wang Long's expression and guessed what he wanted to say. She then turned to look at Chen Guang, who was sitting on the sofa with an expressionless face. The anger that had gradually subsided rose from the bottom of her heart again. Captain Wu. Wang Long was about to speak. Wu-tong waved her hand fiercely. Don't speak for him. I have said before that he should change his bad temper. Today, he actually attacked a police officer in front of us. If I don't correct him, my name is not Wu-tong. She didn't give Wang Long a chance to say another word. She passed by him like the wind and stood in front of Chen Guang. Looking at the trash can full of Drunkard's peanut packaging, barbecue sticks, and 6 cans of beer, Wu-tong's face completely darkened. I worked so hard to clean up outside, but I asked you to come here to be educated, but you became eating barbecue and watching football? Taking a few deep breaths, she calmed her mood. Chen Guang. Come here. I have something to say to you. Wu-tong suppressed the anger in her heart. She also knew that this place was someone else's branch, and she couldn't let others see her as a joke. She walked to the interrogation room. Wang Long came over eagerly. I want to help you say something. Chen Guang was also expressionless at this time. He just waved his hand and said, "Thank you, Brother Wang Long. It's okay, I will go and talk to her myself." If it were another time, Chen Guang would indeed be very patient to explain to Wu Tong, and even use the long-lost pestering skill to make her obedient. After all, he owed her a lot of favors. Since he owed her a favor, he would feel weak in his heart. Hence, Chen Guang's patience with Wu Tong was also much better than others. Moreover, Chen Guang also knew that although she was a bit irritable, she was a good person. But today was different. This day was too special. Tomorrow morning was the most important event in Chen Guang's life so far. Even if the sky was falling, he had to give in to his mother's surgery. Chen Guang had already wasted 2 hours here, and he hadn't had a good rest until now. Chen Guang was already very impatient. When he thought of tomorrow's surgery, the uncertainty made him even more anxious and uneasy. On top of that, Chen Guang had drunk 3 tins of beer, which boosted his courage. Even though he understood Wu Tong's misunderstanding, he still felt indignant for himself. Even if you really like me, I don't like you. We don't have that kind of relationship at all. What right do you have to throw a tantrum at me? I don't care if you talk about our relationship in your own place, but why are you giving me that attitude again and again? What are you doing? Do you really think of yourself as my woman? Have I given my consent and approval? When have I ever taken advantage of you? So what if I really slept with Sun Xiaoxuan? Do I need to ask for your permission? What's more, Sun Xiaoxuan and I aren't even close. Are you done yet? Just like that, Chen Guang walked into the interrogation room with an imposing manner. Wu Tong, who was next to him, slammed the door shut. She then looked at Chen Guang, who was standing by the door, and sneered. Chen Guang also stared at her. Are you done? Wu Tong said angrily, What do you mean I'm done? You are just a little brat, right? Not only did you bring a little girl to a hotel, but you also hit the police? Do you really think that with me covering for you, you can do whatever you want in Wujing City? What's the difference between you and Pan Jiang, that kind of rich second generation? What did you say to me before? What are you doing now? Chen Guang spat at the side. Didn't you hear how unpleasant that person's words were? Does he mean that I deserve to be wronged? Sun Xiaoxuan was called a prostitute, and I have to swallow my anger? Even if I don't know you, I will still beat him up. Do you believe me? No matter what the reason is. It's wrong to hit people. Wu Tong said forcefully. What a joke. If I can tolerate this, am I still a man? As the two talked, the atmosphere became heated. Wang Long, who was eavesdropping outside, was anxious, but there was nothing he could do. Wu Tong snorted. Yes, I know that you and that little girl named Sun Xiaoxuan are a couple. She is very important to you, and you can't let her be wronged, right? Chen Guang was so angry that he laughed. He waved his hand and said, Think what you want. There is nothing between me and her. Clatter. As soon as he finished speaking, Sun Xiaoxuan's white bra fell out of his sleeve and fell on the ground between the two of them. Chen Guang was dumbfounded. How could I forget that this thing was in my sleeve? You call this nothing? Wu Tong looked down at the white bra. Her brain was stiff at first, but she quickly reacted. She was so angry that her face turned red. Forget it. Chen Guang just quietly bent down and tucked the bra back into his sleeve. He didn't even have the mood to explain. What the F***ck? Just as he was about to prove his innocence aggressively, this thing was actually thrown at him. Even if I am the best talker in history, Zhang Heng, I can't do anything. What else can I say? Say my ass. Forget it. I can't be bothered to argue with you. I'm leaving. Chen Guang was about to open the door. He didn't want to explain, couldn't explain, and didn't need to. He was too lazy to care about what Wu Tong thought. He planned to leave first. Stop. Wu Tong raised her hand and pressed the door lock. You can't leave. Chen Guang turned around and looked at Wu Tong. Why? You're interfering with official business. You violated public security regulations. I have the right to detain you. Wu Tong felt extremely wronged. Up until now, Chen Guang hadn't explained anything to her. However, she was in no position to take the initiative to uncover the matter and ask what she wanted to say. She never thought that from the beginning to the end, whether it was Chen Guang, Sun Xiaoxuan, or even Wang Long, they all wanted to explain to her. It was she who didn't give them the chance to speak, which led to the current situation. Chen Guang took a deep breath and forcibly suppressed his anger. When he looked at Wu Tong again, there was no longer any familiarity in his eyes. There was only a strong sense of distance and unfamiliarity. He finally understood. Perhaps the after-effects of his second-generation rich sister's severe hypnosis had remained until now. As a result, she really did have feelings for him. That was why she became like this today. Dealing with her like this is too strenuous. I'm tired. He used to think that dealing with her was easy and pleasant, but now it seemed that he had thought too simply of her. After all, she was the daughter of an aristocratic family. No matter how well she hid her big missy temperament, it would sooner or later erupt and see the light of day. If she really had such a temperament and didn't care whether it was right or wrong, and insisted on making life difficult for him like a crazy woman, then this friendship would be broken. As for the favor he owed her, he would just give her a few 100,000 yuan and treat it as paying it off. With such thoughts in his mind, Chen Guang was attacked by the alcohol and anger at the same time. His thoughts were a little out of control. Chen Guang also misunderstood Wu Tong. He thought that Wu Tong didn't want to hear an explanation at all. In fact, Wu Tong's brain had short-circuited before. Now, she was extremely eager for him to say something that could make her feel at ease. Even if it was to lie to her that there was nothing between him and Sun Xiaoxuan. Even if she had clearly seen the bra, as long as Chen Guang was willing to make it up, no matter how absurd the lie sounded, she would be willing to believe it. However, it was already too late. Enough, it's really enough. Once his mind made a decision, when Chen Guang spoke again, his voice was no longer angry, but cold. Wu Tong's whole body quivered. She vaguely realized Chen Guang's plan, and her expression became flustered. Chapter 283. Wu Tong swallowed her saliva and said nervously, Chen Guang. I'm a little angry. Chen Guang shook his head slowly. I can probably guess what you're angry about. I originally wanted to explain it to you. But is there really a need to explain it now? Say it. I'll believe whatever you say. At this time, Wu Tong was no longer the captain of the Wenxing branch. She was just a frightened woman. Well, I'll tell you. My mom is lying in Wujing City Hospital now. Tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, she will go into the operating room for a kidney transplant. Do you understand? I have to go to the hospital at 6 o'clock in the morning, but I was called to this place by you. I can't go back to the hotel until now. How do you think I should feel right now? I don't know what your position is, but you seem to care about my relationship with Sun Xiaoxuan. Then I'll tell you. She is my squad leader, and she came here to help. Because there were no extra rooms in the hotel, she could only squeeze into the same room as me. It was a double bed, and it was an unfortunate coincidence. Do you believe it? This bra was originally hidden under the pillow. Your assistant policeman wanted to lift the pillow, so I beat him up. Do you believe it? Then I didn't want the girl's private clothes to be seen by others, so I stuffed it into my sleeve. Do you believe it? Forget it, it's up to you if you don't believe it. That's it. I'm done talking. After Chen Guang finished, he pushed the dumbfounded Wu Tong away, opened the door of the interrogation room, and walked out quickly. Didn't you say last time that your mother just had a small problem? How could that be? Wu Tong suddenly understood the reason why Chen Guang was so angry and out of control. Chen Guang turned around, because I wasn't familiar with you at the time. There was no need to tell you in detail about this family's private affairs. I don't need someone I'm not familiar with to help me share my pain. By the way, I do owe you a favor. I'm very sorry about this. I'll find a way to return the favor. Goodbye. With that, Chen Guang strode away, not giving Wu Tong any chance to speak. Wu Tong's face turned pale as she watched his figure disappear out of the branch office in an instant. When Wang Long saw this, he knew that things were developing in the worst direction, so he hurried over. Wu Tong took a deep breath and almost roared in front of everyone, "You must know Wang Long, right? Why didn't you tell me earlier?" Wang Long had a bitter look on his face. "I wanted to tell you a long time ago, but I didn't have the chance to." Wu Tong's body almost went limp. She leaned against the wall and rubbed her head in pain, but she didn't have the courage to chase after Chen Guang. Even if she did, she didn't know what to say to Chen Guang. Her previous anger came without reason, and now her disappointment was also without reason. She was very confused and upset, but she didn't want to admit that she really liked Chen Guang. Wu Tong locked herself in the break room of the branch office. She tried to call her best friend, Tang Ying, who was in Wujing City Hospital, but Tang Ying's phone was turned off. Wu Tong threw her phone on the coffee table, lay down on her back, and curled up on the sofa. She muttered to herself, "How did it become like this? I'm really a terrible person. I'll find a suitable opportunity to apologize to him. He should be able to forgive me, right? He's also very angry. If it were me, I'm afraid I'd be even angrier than him." Sigh. He was so angry that he even said that he didn't know me well. This was really depressing to the point of being powerless. When Chen Guang returned to the hotel, it was already 5:00 in the morning. He tiptoed back to his room and carefully placed the bra next to the sleeping Sun Xiaoxuan's pillow. He gently lay down next to him with his clothes on. The alcohol mixed with drowsiness, and he could finally sleep for an hour. Before falling asleep, Chen Guang still remembered Wu Tong's pale face with regret before he left, and he faintly felt a little uncomfortable. He thought to himself that she might really be very sad, but he could only sigh in his heart. Sometimes, life is quite helpless. Although he knew that she might not have any evil intentions, he couldn't help but gradually become disgusted with her. It's good to sour my relationship with her as soon as possible. I should keep my distance from people like her in the first place, and at the same time, I should cut off my relationship with her as my god sister. That way, I won't get into more trouble because of Liuli's overly effective divine hypnosis. This god sister is actually not that cheap. Her background is a little too big. Indeed, someone like me shouldn't be trying to get close to her. Maybe if I put down my pride and coax her a little, she would be able to calm down. Actually, she's quite easy to fool, but what's the point of doing this? I really don't have the mood to think about these things right now. Or, even if I manage to coax her today, it will become like this sooner or later, right? The next day, Sun Xiaoxuan's alarm rang on time at 6:00 in the morning. As soon as she opened her eyes, she saw Chen Guang lying next to her, and the boulder in her heart was instantly lifted. Sun Xiaoxuan's face was flushed red as she took her legs off Chen Guang's bed while trembling with fear. Her face was extremely red. She didn't know how she slept last night. As she slept, she moved to face Chen Guang's side. Then, just like how she usually hugged a doll in the dorm, she hugged Chen Guang, who was wrapped in a cup, tightly as if he was a doll. She even put her legs on his body. Fortunately, this idiot was sleeping like a log and didn't notice. Sun Xiaoxuan quietly turned off the alarm and washed up even more carefully, not making the slightest sound. Seeing that Chen Guang was still sleeping like a log, Sun Xiaoxuan thought for a moment and didn't rush to wake him up. Instead, she pulled out the room card and went downstairs. After eating breakfast in the dining room, she brought 2 buns, a box of porridge, and an egg upstairs. After placing the breakfast on the bedside table, Sun Xiaoxuan sat on the edge of the bed and quietly looked at the sleeping Chen Guang. When he thought about what happened last night, he felt a faint sense of grievance, but it was more of a sweet feeling. He's always like this, protecting me like an angry lion. I don't know if he explained it to Officer Wu. Sun Xiaoxuan's mood was a bit complicated. He hoped that Chen Guang and Wu Tong would really break up because of this, but he also felt that this misunderstanding was caused by him. He felt ashamed, and he also felt that Chen Guang had been mentally and physically exhausted for the past 2 days. Sun Xiaoxuan didn't help much when he came over, and instead caused trouble for him. How about I go back and explain it to the armed police officer? Sun Xiaoxuan buried the faint unwillingness in his heart and made up his mind. The two of them were scheduled to go to the hospital at 6:30 a.m. Sun Xiaoxuan waited for another 5 minutes until 6:20 a.m., but Chen Guang still hadn't woken up. He had to wake him up. Sun Xiaoxuan pushed Chen Guang's body and said softly, "Wake up. Chen Guang, wake up." It was no use. He only closed his eyes at 5 a.m. It had only been an hour, so how could Chen Guang wake up so easily? Sun Xiaoxuan pushed him harder, but he still didn't move. He was really sleeping like a dead pig. Why is he sleeping so soundly? What should I do? Sun Xiaoxuan moved her face in front of Chen Guang and looked at the guy with the dark circles under his eyes. She was worried. She looked straight at Chen Guang, and her mind was suddenly emptied. He looks so good when he's sleeping. He looks good no matter how I look at him. I really want to look at his face like this for the rest of my life. For some reason, Sun Xiaoxuan opened her eyes wide and moved forward bit by bit. Her lips touched his lips like a dragonfly skimming the surface of the water, and then she shrank back like a startled rabbit. Her face was extremely red, and the burning sensation spread from her neck to her ears, then to her face. Her heart was pounding, and she looked like a child who had secretly eaten a snack. He really slept like a log. Sun Xiaoxuan moved forward again and whispered in his ear, "Chen Guang. I like you." Then, Chen Guang slowly opened his eyes. "What are you doing? My ears are itchy." "Ah. Get up, get up. It's 6:30 a.m. Sun Xiaoxuan ran outside. "I'll wait for you downstairs. Eat your breakfast and go downstairs." It's weird. Chen Guang rubbed his eyes in a daze and turned his head to look at the hospital building outside the window. His mind gradually flew to his mother's side. "I've been waiting for this day. If something really happened to my mother, I'll really tear the heavens apart." Chapter 284. Wu Tong lay in the waiting room of the branch office until 6:00 the next morning. She was woken up by her ringtone. When she opened her eyes, she saw that Tang Ying had finally replied. "What's up, D*MN woman? I'm busy. I'm going into the operating room soon. I turned off my phone last night. I have a major operation today, so I need to rest." Wu Tong dialed Tang Ying's number. Tang Ying seemed to be having breakfast. Before Wu Tong could speak, Tang Ying said, "Let's make a long story short. I have a major operation today, and it's a life-threatening one. I'll call you when I'm done." Tang Ying's mouth was stuffed with porridge buns, and her words were muffled. She looked very anxious. Hearing that Tang Ying was really busy, Wu Tong knew that her idea of confiding in her best friend was completely dashed. She sighed. "Since you're busy, forget it." "What's wrong? Why are you sighing?" This is not like the Wu Tong I know. Tang Ying and Wu Tong had known each other for more than 10 years. They were not biological sisters, but they were closer than that. Hearing Wu Tong's tone, Tang Ying knew that she had something on her mind. Wu Tong did not want to disturb Tang Ying's surgery by talking about her troubles, so she changed the topic. "By the way, what kind of surgery are you going to do? Why do you look so serious? Is it a complicated condition?" On the other side, Tang Ying gulped down a big mouthful of porridge. It's not complicated. I've done it a few times before, so I'm familiar with it. It's a kidney transplant. But this is my first time being the chief surgeon since returning to China, so I can't take it lightly. Wu Tong's heart skipped a beat. She suddenly remembered that Chen Guang had said last night that his mother would be having a kidney transplant in Wujing City Hospital today. Could it be so coincidental? But on second thought, she realized that it was probably true. A kidney transplant was not a minor operation like an appendectomy. It might not even happen once a month. Is your patient called Feng Rong? Last time when Chen Guang beat up Pan Jiang, Wu Tong had looked up his family's ID file, and she had already memorized the names of Chen Guang's parents. Tang Ying was shocked. How did you know? Wu Tong laughed. Who do you think I am? Is there anything in Wujing City that I don't know? Tang Ying rolled her eyes. She had finished her meal, so she put down the bowl and said, I don't want to waste time with you. I'm off. Talk later. Tang Ying hung up the phone, got up, put on a white coat, and walked out of the dorm. Since the day before yesterday, Feng Rong had been under 24-hour surveillance. Now, she was finally going to the battlefield. Wu Tong hung up the phone, and she felt her head was going to explode. It was only 6:00 in the morning, and there were only 2 colleagues on duty in the branch office. As for Wang Long, he had returned home last night when he realized that he couldn't help much. Wu Tong drove her Wrangler out of the police station's parking lot and looked at the Wujing City Hospital not far away. She hesitated for a while before she drove back to Wenqing Town. At this moment, Chen Guang was in a fit of rage and had many things to do. So Chen Guang definitely wouldn't be in the mood to listen to his explanation. When the time was right, he would make an excuse to visit Tang Ying in the hospital and create an opportunity for them to meet. At that time, even if Chen Guang is still mad at me, Tang Ying is the chief surgeon who cured his mother. I should at least give her some face, right? Wu Tong knew Tang Ying's medical skills, and she didn't think anything would go wrong with Tang Ying as the chief surgeon. However, when she thought about the fact that she needed Tang Ying to mediate between them, she regretted it. This is all my fault. My brain must have short-circuited. Chen Guang didn't care about what Wu Tong was thinking. He quickly got up, washed up, ate breakfast, and went downstairs with his bag. Sun Xiaoxuan stayed downstairs for a long time. He repeatedly scrutinized Chen Guang's movements, and after confirming that Chen Guang didn't notice his little tricks, he gradually calmed down. The two went straight to the hospital without delay. Sun Xiaoxuan wanted to help a lot, but after they arrived at the hospital, she could only watch from the side and couldn't help. Chen Guang and Chen Guoli had a lot to sign, so Feng Rong didn't allow outsiders to approach. But Sun Xiaoxuan didn't expect to be of any help. She was satisfied just to accompany Chen Guang and wait for her outside. Time flew, and it was 9:00. Chen Guang and Chen Guoli watched Feng Rong being pushed into the operating room. The door of the operating room was slowly closed. The father and son looked at each other and saw the deep worry in each other's eyes. Chen Guang, Uncle Chen, it will be fine. Dr. Tang is very famous. I found a lot of information about her on the internet. She is really famous. Sun Xiaoxuan walked over with his phone. Chen Guang and Chen Guoli knew that it was useless to worry, so they simply sat down together after looking around for a while. 4 hours passed by slowly amidst the torment and waiting. The 4 hours were neither fast nor slow. It started at 9:00 in the morning and ended at 1:00 in the afternoon. During this period, Chen Guang and Chen Guoli stood up and looked outside the operating room many times. They knew that it was useless and they couldn't see anything, but they couldn't control their mood to do such a meaningless thing. Chen Guang was actually quite sleepy at this time, but he couldn't close his eyes at all. He stared at the operating room door. Chen Guang, don't be afraid. It will be fine. Sun Xiaoxuan whispered to him. Chen Guang nodded and then shook his head. I know, but knowing it doesn't mean I can do it. During this period, the door opened several times, and the assistant came out twice to ask Chenguli to sign. When he signed, Guang and Chenguli were constantly asking questions. However, the assistant was well versed in communicating with patients. Hence, he only managed to calm the two of them down, but he didn't make things clear. Tang Ying, the only person who could tell the truth to Guang, was the chief surgeon inside and had no time to care about what was happening outside. Lu Fei, Zhong Bai, Wang Qing, and the others arrived at about noon. They brought lunch for Guang and the other two, and then waited here with them. Finally, it was 1:00 in the afternoon, but the door was still not opened. At this moment, the hearts of Guang and his son started to rise. Sun Xiaoxuan subconsciously grabbed Guang's hand. He was also so nervous that his knuckles turned white. The usual kidney transplant surgery only took 4 hours, and it would only be slower if the surgery was not going well. The father and son looked at each other. Chenguli said, "There won't be any problems, will there?" Guang shook his head. "No, it shouldn't be. This is the best kidney source." At 1:30, the door of the operating room finally opened. Tang Ying, who looked exhausted, pulled off her mask as she walked out. Guang stood up and ran to Tang Ying. Tang Ying looked up at him and grinned. The surgery was very successful. Along with Tang Ying's smile, the sky and the earth suddenly became clear. The heavy pressure that had been weighing on Guang's heart for nearly a year disappeared at this moment. God has eyes. Hearing Tang Ying's words and seeing the smile on her face, Guang and his son felt that their hearts were about to fly. Chapter 285. But you guys can't go in yet. The patient hasn't completely woken up from the anesthesia, so you'll probably have to wait for a while. After that, there'll be 24 hours of special care. When it's about time, I'll inform you guys to go in. Tang Ying spoke again and patted Guang's shoulder heavily. She then bade farewell to Lu Fei and the others before turning around to head for the office. She was a little tired and needed to rest. After taking 2 steps, Tang Ying turned around again and saw Guang and Chenguli hugging each other, tears streaming down their faces. The shoulders of the father and son twitched wildly, but they suppressed their voices, not daring to disturb the operation room with loud noises. This past year, the 2 men in this family had shouldered far too much pressure, and they finally vented it all at this moment. They were free. Tang Ying looked at the father and son from afar and couldn't turn around for a long time. When she suddenly came back to her senses, she discovered that there were 2 clear lines of tears on her face. Sun Xiaoxuan looked at Guang and Guang from the side and couldn't hold back his tears either. Guang could only grit his teeth and bear it no matter how hard it was. He never complained to anyone, and always put on a cheeky smile in front of others to hide the enormous pressure on his heart and shoulders. This was because he firmly believed that as long as he faced it with a smile, no matter how hard his fate was, it wouldn't force him to the end of the road. Thank the heavens, he endured it. This was because hidden under the mischievous appearance was a body that was as hard as iron. Wearing this armor made of iron, it was naturally able to withstand the thousands of cuts of life. In the most difficult time, Liuli appeared in his life with the transcending Holy Grail. Although there were many bumps until now, he still gritted his teeth and endured it with Liuli's help. Lu Fei stood to the side and looked at Guang's almost tearful appearance. She recalled his incomparably domineering and cold-hearted attitude when he was racing. At this moment, the 2 completely different figures gradually overlapped. A strange emotion surged in the depths of her heart. Sun Xiaoxuan was in an even worse state. If it weren't for the many strangers around them and the fact that Guang and his father were hugging each other and crying, she wouldn't have been able to muster up the courage to do so. Otherwise, she would have rushed forward and hugged Guang tightly. Finally, after waiting for more than 2 hours, Guang and Chenguli went in with Tang Ying's permission to have a short chat with Feng Rong. The family of 3 sighed again. On the other side, Lu Fei and Zhong Bai left first because of their respective companies' matters. Wang Qing's physical condition was not very good, so he went back to rest first. Sun Xiaoxuan originally wanted to stay with them, but Qin Guang asked her to go back to school. There was a final exam at 4:00 in the afternoon. Qin Guang knew that if he didn't study for the exam, he would definitely die. There was no need for Sun Xiaoxuan to accompany him to fail the exam. She didn't want to break her golden record of never failing a subject in university for 4 years. Sun Xiaoxuan didn't care so much about it, but Qin Guang said that his mother must be out of danger now, and there was no possibility of any relapse or rejection, so he had to drive her away. Tang Ying was very puzzled by Qin Guang's absolute confidence. She found an opportunity to quietly call him to her dormitory and asked in private, "Why do I feel that you are more confident than me? Although the donor's kidney is indeed a perfect match, it's my job as a doctor to make a judgment. How can you be so sure?" Tang Ying couldn't help but be curious. If it were any other patient's family, they would be most concerned about the immune rejection at this time. Chen Guoli was almost the same. However, ever since the surgery was completed, Qin Guang didn't ask about it from beginning to end. He only expressed his gratitude to her. How could Qin Guang tell her that this kidney was obtained by using the power of fate of the heavenly Holy Grail? Its compatibility was absolutely the best in the world. There was absolutely no way that there would be any problems. Unless the heavenly Holy Grail was filled with water. But that was obviously impossible. He only scratched his head and grinned. Intuition. Intuition, my ass. Forget it, I won't argue with you. Anyway, I've done my duty as a friend. Now tell me, how are you going to make up for my shattered self-esteem? Of course, Tang Ying was referring to the fact that Qin Guang didn't want her to be Feng Rong's attending physician. Qin Guang was also embarrassed. I've apologized to you so many times. Why aren't you letting me off the hook? How about this, I'll treat you to a meal some other day. Tang Ying spat at him and tapped his forehead with her finger. Do you think I'm only short of money for a meal? That's right. After all, you're a tycoon who lives in a duplex. So, if our Dr. Tang doesn't mind my young teeth, how about I give my body to you? Qin Guang moved his face forward with a smirk. The distance between the two suddenly became very close. Tang Ying, who was sitting on the chair, looked up at him. Her mind subconsciously recalled the scene when she pinched the thing in his pants. Her face turned red, but she immediately reacted. She sneered and lowered her head to look at Qin Guang's crotch with disdain. It's not that I can't accept your young teeth. After all, although this doctor is older than you by a few years, I'm quite good at taking care of myself. I won't age much faster than you. It's just that if this problem of yours isn't cured, I will never consider you. Hey, you know what I mean. As Tang Ying spoke, a meaningful smile appeared on her face. Hiss. Qin Guang gasped. He originally wanted to tease this drunk lady, but he didn't expect to be teased instead. Why does she still remember that? Can we still be friends? Hey, let me put it this way. I'm doing your mother's surgery. Maybe you think I'm doing you a big favor, but I don't think so. Your mother is my patient. It's only natural for a doctor to treat a patient. It doesn't count as me repaying you for saving me from being molested. Anyway, I've made up my mind. For a boy of your age, this problem is indeed difficult to talk about. You must be too embarrassed to look for a doctor. I can understand that. So, leave your disease to me. Promise me, don't give up on treatment, okay? As Tang Ying spoke, she stood up and patted Qin Guang's shoulder with her right hand. She lowered her head and looked at him with a burning gaze. I really didn't. Qin Guang was about to cry. He was in a good mood today, so much so that he was a little too arrogant. He actually dared to tease this lady. Now, he really regretted it. He wished he could eat his own tongue. Trying to explain is equivalent to covering up. I understand. It's also an illness if it's too short, and it can be cured. Alright, I'll stop bickering with you. You won't be able to enter the ICU for the next 2 days. I think you should go back to school and take your exams. You won't be of much help here anyway, Tang Ying said as she walked out of the dorm room, leaving Chen Guang alone in the lonely wind. After she opened the door, she turned her head and looked at Chen Guang with a smile. Out of the blue, she said, "You've changed." Chapter 286. After Tang Ying walked far away, Chen Guang picked up the heavenly holy grail and drank a mouthful of tea. He lowered his head and caressed the cup, thinking to himself, perhaps she's right, I have indeed changed. In the past, no matter how much he fooled around, there would always be something hidden in his heart that he couldn't get rid of. But from today onwards, Chen Guang knew that he was different from the past. Perhaps he could put it in another way. Could he return to the person he was a year ago? Living a carefree life of the rich generation? But when he thought of this, he couldn't help but laugh out loud. You can be smug all you want, but don't blame this empress for not saying the ugly words first. The power of destiny has already completely helped your mother, and your punishment realm may descend at any time. At this moment, Liuli's voice rang out in his heart. Hey! What do you mean by descending at any time? Can you give me a more precise time? What exactly was the realm of punishment? Can we give you some information in advance? I'm so freaking panicking. Chen Guang asked in a panic. Liuli's figure gradually appeared in his mind. This woman was really frugal. She still didn't wear the lustrous feather dress, and even the white mist that was used to cover her body was reduced to a shrunken version, only covering the most important parts of her body. Even her belly button was exposed. Clearly, after being taken advantage of by Chen Guang last time, she had decided to give up. She shrugged. I can't. Why? Because I don't know what it will be, so I can't tell you either. F***CK. Are you F***King kidding me? A dignified god emperor is so weak? Don't waste your breath. In any case, just deal with the situation as it comes. I can give you a little reminder. Think about it, what is this so-called fate? You touched the fate of your loved ones and obtained benefits. Then, how do you think fate will punish you? The more you gain, the more you will lose. You can slowly ponder over this sentence, this old lady won't be accompanying you. After saying that, Liuli's figure gradually faded, intending to escape. Hey! What are you going to do? Chen Guang stopped him. Liuli smiled proudly. As the financial steward of the Savior, I have to learn some knowledge. You mortals are really interesting. It's just the principle of bartering, but you call it commerce. There are so many tricks in it. It's really broad and profound. I've never seen anything so interesting in the 10 billion years I've lived in the endless god realm. It's the best way to pass the time. This emperor is leaving. Lori was right. Given her status in the endless divine realm, as the daughter of the master god of chaos, she could have anything she wanted. Even if she occasionally made a deal, it would be nothing more than using something stolen from the master god of chaos to trade for something else. Business was a new field of study for her. This time, she really ran away. Chen Guang's face was ashen as he held the cup. He felt his heart ache when he thought of the 183 million in his UBS account. This feeling was basically the same as opening a chicken farm at home and having 700 or 800 weasels living on the mountain next door. It was impossible to guard against and completely hopeless. Should I secretly turn all of it into cash and bury it in the ground? Just as this thought emerged in his mind, Liuli's voice immediately came again. It's useless even if you turn it into cash. I have ways to make you obediently submit. I advise you to be sensible and not force me to use my ultimate move. F***CK. A naked threat. I can't do anything about it. My family's cheat is so high-end. She's actually threatening me. This is so King ridiculous. Alright, I admit it. I can indeed return to my old self from a year ago, a carefree, poor second generation. Rich second generation, whatever, just let it go with the wind. When Chen Guang returned to the school dormitory, it was already past 6 in the evening. Lin Jingwei and the others had just finished their exams and were rushing back. Chen Guang also called Sun Xiaoxuan, Gao Ye, and Zhuo Jingxin booked a table at the elegant pavilion outside the school. Before coming back, he had said that he would treat these few people who knew that he had made a fortune and were the closest to him. At the same time, he would treat it as a celebration of the great success of his mother's surgery. In addition, Chen Guang also planned to drag the whole class to a food stall in Wenxing Town after he finished the remaining 4 environmental physics and modern chemistry exams the day after tomorrow. There was no other way. That was how confident he was when he was rich. It was better to spend some of it before he squandered it all for Liuli. It would be too sad to return to being a pauper without enjoying the life of a rich person. Oh right, since Liuli was burning at least tens of thousands of phone bills every month, he might as well go to the business office later and slap her for $1 million in phone bills. That's right, I'm such a tycoon. I feel uncomfortable if I don't top up $1 million in phone bills every time. Spending money that's about to go down the drain doesn't hurt at all. Oh right, the little girl in the business office in town seems to be quite pure. If I top up $1 million in phone bills with her, she will definitely get a lot of commission, right? My sales will also soar, right? I wonder if I can seduce her into throwing herself at me. I'm looking forward to it just thinking about it. Don't talk about feelings with me, just come for my money. Love me hard. As he thought about it, he was almost drooling. Do you guys think Brother Guang's illness is acting up? Why don't we take him to the school hospital? I'm getting goosebumps from seeing him like this. At that moment, Bai Nyangzi's voice rang in his ears. Chen Guang came back to his senses and saw the guy's big face inches away. He quickly got up and pushed him away. Chen Guang said angrily, "Show some respect to a billionaire. Otherwise, I'll make sure that you have no place in the environmental protection industry." What the F***ck? So what if you're rich? I recently started a new book on Qidian Women's Channel. It's very popular, and I'm planning to switch to being a writer. Bai Nyangzi was fearless. On the other side, Lin Jingwei was furious. UB*TCH, did you write the book you asked me to recommend to my cousin a few days ago? The Billionaire Young Master's Cruel Spoiled Wife, Please Love Me 1001 Times? Blarg. What a scary title. Chen Guang and Xiong Jinka couldn't hold it in anymore. Bai Nyangzi's invincible title caused them 10,000 points of damage. Damn it, this grandson has finally embarked on the road of no return, this dead sissy that can't be saved. I'll pay you 100 yuan. Please drag him out and chop him to death. Chen Guang decided to use money to talk. The 4 of them made a ruckus in the dormitory until Gao Ye called to hurry them up. Chen Guang was actually very happy. He knew that the 3 grandsons in his dormitory were not that kind of ordinary people. Even if they saw him make a fortune in Hong Kong, they could still gather together and laugh happily after coming back. Money was a worldly possession. It was hard to find a good brother in life. In other words, the money that Luli was eyeing was a worldly possession. Brother Guang, you're so rich now. Why don't you help me invest? Let me tell you, you only need to invest 100,000 yuan and help me get an average of 10,000 subscriptions for 3 months. When I become a goddess in the female market, I'll give you half of the copyright fee for the TV series adaptation of my book. I guarantee that you'll earn 2 million yuan. Well, except for Bai Nyangzi. He didn't need a brother like this. Chen Guang and the other 2 kicked Bai Nyangzi, the new goddess in the female market, into the flower bed. The 3 of them said in unison, "We'd better break off our friendship with him." Unfortunately, Zhuo Jingxi, who had come to pick up Bai Nyangzi, saw the 3 of them bullying him. She rushed forward and taught Chen Guang a lesson. "What are you doing? Why are you bullying Bai Fan? Zhuo Jingxi had the air of a counselor. Chen Guang pointed at Bai Nyangzi and said, he's been writing a web novel recently. It's for the female market. The title is Billionaire Young Master's Cruel Doting Little Wife, Please Love Me 1001 More Times. What do you think, Teacher Zhuo? Zhuo Jingxi took a step back. Please kick him further away. You bunch of inhumane people. You're killing the dream of a young literary man. Bai Nyangzi roared angrily as he watched the four of them walk away. Chapter 287. Chen Guang hadn't been so relaxed in a long time. In the private room of the Qingye Pavilion, he even lifted his ban on alcohol and had all kinds of drinks with Bramble. They had just gotten to know each other. Why wasn't Lin Jingwei and Bai Nyangzi there? That was because the two of them pretended to be dead on the table not long after the fight started. Only Xiong a fierce tiger by the Mudanjiang River, could keep up with Chen Guang's rhythm. Sun Xiaoxuan wanted to persuade Chen Guang to drink less, but Zhuo Jingxi pulled him back and whispered, "It's okay. He's happy today, so it's okay to drink a little more. He's been holding these things in his heart for a whole year. Now that he's finally free, it's better to drink to release his mood. Otherwise, it's very tiring to keep it bottled up all the time." Sun Xiaoxuan nodded, thinking that Teacher Zhuo understood people better. Zhuo Jingxi just smiled as she watched Chen Guang and Xiong compete with each other. She was also filled with emotion. Who would have thought that this inconspicuous guy could drive the scum Wang Ren out of school, shoulder the burden of his family, and quietly leave a miracle in Xiangjiang that countless people would look up to? Gaoya quietly pulled on Sun Xiaoxuan's sleeve and whispered, "Look at the way Teacher Zhuo looks at Chen Guang. Something's wrong." Sun Xiaoxuan rolled his eyes at her. "Don't talk nonsense. Why did you draw a turtle on Lin Jingwei's face?" "I've been learning how to draw comics recently. I saw that his face is quite big, so it's easy to draw." Xiong felt like he had run into a ghost today. Before Chen Guang's family went bankrupt, the four of them often went to the school to drink beer and barbecue. If he remembered correctly, although Chen Guang's alcohol tolerance was good, it was only slightly better than Lin Jingwei and Bai Nyangzi. As the tiger of the Northeast, it was not difficult for him to take down 3 people by himself. It was just that it was very tiring to be responsible for carrying 3 people at a time. In the past year, because of Chen Guang's family matters, everyone rarely came out to drink. Chen Guang himself almost didn't drink because he had to drive. Xiong never had the chance to show off his superiority in drinking. But what was going on today? Was this guy on steroids or something? His alcohol tolerance was completely unreasonable. Did he become a leaky spoon or a bottomless pit? Cup after cup, he simply couldn't stop. However, he didn't get drunk even after 1,000 cups, and he didn't collapse no matter what. Xiong felt that he could not hold on any longer, but he felt that as the god of wine, the more he was in a life-and-death situation, the more he couldn't be a coward, and he couldn't stop it. Poor Xiong didn't know that Chen Guang had been reborn since a month ago. As the second officer of the En Royal, a veteran pirate famous in the Sea of Time, apart from being able to fight without fear of death, how could his life as a pirate not be stimulated by alcohol? The Sea of Time from the 8th tier of the Heavenly Holy Grail was just that useful, and the effect was just that obvious. Apart from practicing English well for Chen Guang, and leaving behind a body of pirate fighting skills, he also inherited the alcohol tolerance that he had trained by drinking big mouthfuls of hard liquor at sea. It was just that Chen Guang didn't drink much in the past. Finally, Xiong Jinka's head tilted to one side, and he fell down. Chen Guang laughed like a victorious general, and pointed at Xiong's head. "Poor weakling. Fight with me? Practice for another 20 years. Save it. You only know how to drink, and you don't even know how to pick up food. Won't the table full of dishes be wasted? Won't your stomach hurt?" Zhuo Jingxi said as she picked up a piece of crystal twice-cooked pork and put it in Chen Guang's bowl. Although Sun Xiaoshuan told Gao Ye not to talk nonsense, he immediately stuffed a fat crystal pork knuckle into Chen Guang's bowl. At this time, Chen Guang was actually a little drunk, and he couldn't react to the secret confrontation between Sun Xiaoshuan and Zhuo Jingxi. He just ate happily. When they paid the bill and were ready to leave, Lin Jingwei and Bai Nyangzi, who had raised the white flag at the beginning, came back to their senses. Obviously, these two guys had rich experience in pretending to be dead at the table. Poor Lin Jingwei, who had been sober the whole time, was forced to endure Gao Ye's graffiti until Gao Ye painted 8 turtles all over his face. It was true love. When the 7 of them returned to the academy, Chen Guang took the lead with Sun Xiaoshuan and Zhuo Jingxi standing by his side to prevent him from suddenly going crazy when he's already 80% drunk from going crazy. Lin Jingwei and Bai Nyangzi carried Xiong Jinke, who was as heavy as Mount Tai, with one arm on each side. They couldn't wait to throw him to the side of the road. Sun Xiaoshuan pulled Chen Guang, who had tripped with his left foot, and said anxiously, "Slow down, Chen Guang. You are drunk." "Drunk? Don't joke, I'm not drunk. This little bit of alcohol is nothing. Back then, when I was on the Shuyu Sea, I drank more than this, and I could still rush to someone's boat and kill him." Chen Guang waved his hand, refusing to admit that he was drunk. He picked up his phone and called Wenwen. He really wanted to share his feelings with her at this time. Usually, he would be worried about contacting Wenwen in front of Sun Xiaoshuan and Zhuo Jingxi. But now, he didn't think about it at all. It was a pity that Wenwen had already returned to Beijing. Her final exams had ended 2 days earlier, and she had left last night. It seemed that something urgent had happened at home. Chen Guang felt exceptionally regretful. Luckily, before he hung up, Wenwen had added that he would look for her after the results of the CT4 were out. She would not go back on her word. At this moment, Chen Guang's mood instantly turned better. "What did you bet with Wenwen?" Sun Xiaoshuan, who was beside him, popped his head over and asked. Chen Guang chuckled. Heaven's secrets must not be revealed. The next 2 to 3 days were perhaps the most relaxing and enjoyable days Chen Guang had spent in the past year. Unlike the others who still had to prepare for the environmental physics and modern chemistry foundation exams, Master Guang was decisive from the beginning and did not expect to pass. The kneeling posture of failing the exams was also quite straightforward. This kind of carefree feeling of surrendering before the battle had even begun was something that his comrades who were barely on the verge of failing the exams could not be envious of. B*TCH. We're still sprinting tirelessly, can you not turn on the game? Lin Jingwei and the others protested in all sorts of ways. Chen Guang simply shook his head. Do you guys want me to turn on the stereo and share the happy gaming experience? If you guys plan to take the makeup exams with me when school reopens, I don't mind you guys playing games with me. After waiting for about 2 days, Feng Rong was successfully transferred back to the intensive care unit. Just as Chen Guang had expected, there was almost no immune rejection at all. Even Tang Ying sighed that she had never seen a kidney transplant with such a high compatibility rate. It would not be an exaggeration to say that it was a miracle in the history of medicine. In this regard, Chen Guang only smiled and did not say anything. The more amazed the others were, the more scared he felt. The more you gain, the more you lose. These words that Lu Li left for him gradually shrouded his heart in the past 2 days. What exactly will happen? What exactly is waiting for me? I'm so confused. Just as he sat in the ward and let his imagination run wild, an unexpected person walked in. It was Wu Tong. She strode inside and said carelessly, I say, where are you? Tang Ying, you damned girl, are you done? I've been waiting for you for a long time. Chapter 288. Wu Tong strode into the ward, calling Tang Ying's name. In her heart, she muttered, Brat, this is a chance encounter that I created with my own hands. You can't stop me from taking advantage of it, can you? Then, just as she had expected, Chen Guang, Tang Ying, and Feng Rong all turned their heads to look at her in confusion. Didn't I tell you to wait for me in the office? What are you doing in the ward? Tang Ying frowned. She felt very puzzled. Wu Tong had come to the hospital to look for her more than once, but she had never barged in when she was making ward rounds with patients. Did she have something urgent to do today? As she spoke, Tang Ying came over and pushed Wu Tong out. She turned to Chen Guang and his mother and said, "Excuse me, this is my good friend, Wu Tong." Then Tang Ying immediately whispered in Wu Tong's ear, "Go to my dormitory first. I'll be there in a few minutes. I don't know what's so urgent about you. Don't come to my patient's room." However, Wu Tong used a little strength to stop Tang Ying. It was not easy for her to barge in. How could she be pushed away so easily? Then she turned to look at Chen Guang with a very complicated expression. There was the surprise of a chance encounter, a hint of surprise, and a little bit of anxiety. She said, "Chen Guang, why are you here?" In such a short moment, she had perfectly acted out her original intention of looking for Tang Ying, but in fact, she was here to meet Chen Guang by chance. With such acting skills, she could win the Oscar for Best Actress and the Palme d'Or. Chen Guang was really fooled by her. There was a touch of embarrassment on his face. He forced a smile and said, "Hi." He didn't expect that Wu Tong would appear in his mother's ward. What he said to her that day was quite excessive, and it was clear that he wanted to cut ties with her and become a stranger. Chen Guang felt that with Wu Tong's intelligence, it was impossible that she didn't understand his unspoken words. He also knew that with her proud personality, it was almost impossible for her to take the initiative to apologize to him. Over the past few days, Chen Guang occasionally wondered if Wu Tong would come to Wujing City Hospital or the school to look for him. However, she didn't move at all. There was a slight sense of disappointment in her heart, but more than that, she was relieved. Chen Guang told himself that since he had made the decision at that time, he shouldn't regret it. It was a good thing for both Wu Tong and himself. When he realized that Wu Tongzhen was still trapped in the after-effects of Liuli hypnosis, Chen Guang made up his mind. It was not that he thought highly of himself, but he simply felt guilty towards Wu Tong. This kind of relationship was too unfair to Wu Tong. Chen Guang couldn't get over it. If he accepted this kind of relationship, he would be the most despicable person. As long as he drifted further and further away from her, she would eventually be able to forget him and free herself from Liuli's emotional control. When that day came, they would become strangers. If they could still be friends, it would be good to get to know each other again. If they were destined to become strangers, it would be considered as an explanation to her. However, Chen Guang never expected that he would reunite with her like this. It was completely unexpected. "You guys know each other?" Tang Ying, who was also kept in the dark, first looked at Chen Guang, then turned to look at Wu Tong. Wu Tong nodded. "Yeah, of course we know each other." Chen Guang also nodded and stood up. "Hello, Sister Wu Tong. This is my mom, Feng Rong. Mom, let me introduce you. This is Wu Tong, my..." Before Chen Guang could finish his sentence, Wu Tong had already come up to him and patted his shoulder. She was completely different from how she was when she was quarreling with Chen Guang a few days ago. "Hello, Auntie Feng. Chen Guang hasn't had the time to tell you and Uncle yet, right? He acknowledged me as his sister some time ago." Before the dumbfounded Chen Guang could react, Wu Tong turned around and smiled at Tang Ying. "Hey, what a coincidence. Tang Ying, Chen Guang is the younger brother that I've just acknowledged." Then, Wu Tong grabbed Tang Ying and turned to Chen Guang. "You might not believe it, but Miss Ying and I have known each other since elementary school. We are best friends." Chen Guang did not finish his sentence. Wu Tong immediately turned to Feng Rong and smiled sweetly at her. "If I had known that Auntie Feng was recuperating here, I wouldn't have come empty-handed. It's all Chen Guang's fault for not telling me the truth." Feng Rong was also very confused. However, Wu Tong's valiant appearance in her police uniform left a very good first impression on her. As it was inconvenient for her to get up, she nodded and smiled at Wu Tong as a greeting. Xiao Wu. Hello. Feng Rong briefly hesitated. She initially wanted to address Wu Tong as Officer Wu, but she was dumbfounded by Wu Tong's familiarity, especially when Wu Tong mentioned that Chen Guang had treated her as his sister. After some pondering, she decided to call Wu Tong as Little Wu. Tang Ying chatted with her in the ward for a few more minutes. After all, she still had other patients to take care of, so she had to leave. Wu Tong completely played the leading role. She chatted with the talkative Feng Rong and helped her peel fruits. In the end, Feng Rong could not eat them, so she stuffed them all to Chen Guang. Up until now, Chen Guang had roughly guessed Wu Tong's thoughts. He thought that she might want to take advantage of this chance encounter to ease their relationship. Never did Chen Guang expect that she would lower herself in such a manner. At this moment, Chen Guang couldn't speak as harshly as he did back then, especially in the ward. Wu Tong was already chatting passionately with her mother, telling how she got to know Chen Guang and Chen Guang once caught a thief, and Chen Guang helped out as a good citizen. Since then, the two became familiar with each other. They felt that they hit it off, so they acknowledged each other as brother and sister. Wu Tong's words were mixed with lies. She said it in front of Chen Guang, which could be considered as helping Chen Guang clean up his mess. She did not mention that he got into a fight at school and sent someone to the hospital, which was completely in line with Chen Guang's wishes. However, Wu Tong came here with the excuse that she had something to discuss with Tang Ying. After sitting for a while, Tang Ying called her after she was done with her work. Wu Tong could only secretly roll her eyes, but had no choice but to leave for the time being. After Wu Tong left, Feng Rong called Chen Guang in front of her and said, "This police sister of yours is quite a nice person." Chen Guang responded helplessly, "Yeah, she's quite nice. By the way, if we really want to acknowledge her as our god sister, we have to meet her family, right?" Feng Rong said again. Chen Guang scratched his head. "Let's not talk about this for now. We youngsters are just joking around, so don't take it seriously. You elders shouldn't get involved." "That's not how you put it. Wu Tong is a 25-year-old police comrade, unlike you who are still ignorant. Since you have acknowledged her as your sister, she must have agreed after careful consideration. You can't think of fooling around. No, when I get out of the hospital, we'll meet her family. It's not a bad idea to become in-laws. I really like her. She reminds me of your real sister." Feng Rong's eyes turned red as she spoke. Chen Guang was stunned. "My real sister?" You're tuning into the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.